This is a video here called "The Men's is Lonely." Somebody sent me, I think, an Advent Preach video about it, but I prefer to watch this video about it. It's the core video. Apparently, she says that they don't need men or something. I don't really know. So let's kind of give it a watch. I'm curious about the watch, see what they have to actually say. So I can't pronounce her name. I think Khadija Mbowe. I think that's a race from Skyrim. Right, the Khajiit. Am I right? Am I right about that? Right. Cat race from Skyrim. Yeah, it is. So she's a cat girl. I don't know. Anyway, let's give it a watch. Let's start it off.
Y'all, I'm not gonna lie. It felt like anything men did, we were like, what? Why are you breathing?
Dynamite's gonna make everything all right.
Bro.
Shut the fuck up. I know that was you. I ain't even gotta look.
God, we're ruthless. Ruthless. We were ruthless.
Okay.
So, occasionally, I do find myself on the dating apps.
Okay. All right.
It honestly depends on what mood I'm in. But on this particular day, I was in a mood to chat, but not with the menses. So, I had switched my settings. And the first girl that I match with, in her profile, there's a photo.
Okay.
And it just says, lonely single men are on the rise due to higher dating standards.
Okay.
Oh my God. It was like a mating call or something. But anyway.
Well, first of all, let's just be real. Okay. Tinder is not the best place to meet people. This is the problem. Tinder is not the best place to I met my wife on Tinder. Okay. Let me rephrase that. Most people meet people through like other things, whether it is through work or it is through like family or friends, you know, my sister. No, but these are probably more effective. A lot of people are on Tinder to date. I think that generally men are on Tinder to kind of fuck, and women are probably on Tinder a little bit. So like a lot of them just seem to scroll and kind of get like a self-esteem boost. I think that's part of it. Not necessarily the most attractive atmosphere. I will say that ultimately you can only really control yourself. For a lot of the young men, if you're getting rejected on Tinder a lot, just understand that that's just par for the course. That's part of it. That's dating is getting rejected, and it's people who are successful at dating aren't people who don't get rejected. They're people who are good at getting rejected. They just get rejected, like okay, and they move on. So frankly, maybe try to learn to talk to people a little better. Take a shower, like make yourself look nice. Take nice pictures. Which is impossible for me. I don't understand how to take nice pictures, but trying to learn a little bit of social skills, which is gonna be hard. Go out a little more, shit like that, man, and you'll have a better time finding a girl on Tinder and shit. So I think that there is like an issue. I just don't think that it's entirely women's fault for having high standards. I think that it's like a multitude of different things, so.
Anyway, saw this and immediately looked it up because I was like, is this real? Maybe this isn't real. Come to find out.
Yeah.
Or as we say,
my wife said that Tinder's the best place to get the best pussy to make you fall in love, which was true in my case. I did. First time we had sex, I said, what the fuck is this? Because it was good. I don't know what it was, bro, but it was good. It was crazy. It was crazy. It was crazy, man. I don't know. Just be confident. Build your profile, man. Don't just put like a picture of you holding a fish in there. It's not bad if you have a hobby, but you gotta put a little bit of extra effort in there. You gotta put a little bit of extra effort into it. Try to give like a little description about you and yourself. Be a little honest. You don't have to be crazy. Like conversation starters. Shit like that. Shit like that.
Well, these articles were published literally like a day or two before. So This is, my tea's ready. Hold on 1 second.
Oh, geez. Your tea.
So turns out this is actually true, although as always, there's more to the story. But this is all research from the Pew Research Center. I think a place that most people
Rising share of U.S. adults are living without a spouse or a partner. Okay.
Find trustworthy. And when I was looking at the research article, I didn't expect it to be as long as it was because it was honestly very broad strokes, but it was mostly talking about how, just statistically, you're just really worse off if you're unpartnered. But it was mostly talking about how, just statistically, you're just really
increase the share of unpartnered adults having greater. Okay.
Worse off if you're unpartnered, especially.
I would say that generally is probably true. Just from like an emotional perspective, not having somebody to like really bond with and confide in like a deep capacity can be very frustrating for people. Okay.
if you are an unpartnered male. I'll link it. But reading some of these articles and reading Pew's research and stuff, of course, got me thinking how interesting it is that now people are even doing research on this phenomenon of not just unpartnered people, but unpartnered straight men, and why they are unpartnered and the effects it'll have on their health, mental, physical well-being, all of that. And how, and speaking in binaries, how for women, it's actually like healthier apparently, or not to have a
women who are unmarried and childless are the happiest people of all, according to a professor in behavioral science. Okay, so the first one we had like a fucking what did we have, like a Pew Research study, and this one and this one we have a professor said a thing. All right, that may not be the most accurate. I feel like men and women need each other, or like people need partners. If you're gay or whatever, you're a little more of an outlier, but you know what I mean. We'll keep it simple. Men and women need each other for different things in different capacities, but that are also similar things like emotional support and different types of supports and whatnot. So, okay.
A husband or children weighing them down. I'm kidding. Kind of. All jokes aside, I have linked articles that explain it's not quite so general when we know women is not a monolith. Aren't.
Okay. Got here. She linked some of her sources here. Okay, let's check out the sources. The document. Is what she's talking about? Oh, it's just a bunch of books, TV shows. What is all this stuff? Sex education? There's a lot of stuff here. The number of lonely single men is on the rise thanks to modern dating, higher standards. The number of lonely single men on the rise due to women choosing healthier relationships, and the internet finds it funny. Men can't keep up with women's high dating standards. Okay. More men are using dating apps than women. That's probably true. Women are unmarried and childless are the happiest. That's the one that I'm looking for. Okay, we'll read that on the side. We'll listen more.
Monolith. Y'all know. So I wanted to chat with y'all today because this is the stuff I love to talk about: relationships and intimacy and connection and psychological patriarchy, because we are going to do it.
My first question, and I truly mean this, is this person married or dating anybody? Because I do find that, and this happens in not just like
trying to be friends with men,
this happens to a lot of people, whether they're in like the woman sphere or the man sphere or whatever, is that there's a lot of people who will talk about relationships when they are not in one and they don't have a successful, healthy relationship, and it comes off as like a little weird. So I'm not saying that she's not in one. I'm looking. I don't see really anything on her Instagram of her dating. She has like a gay friend, I guess. This is the closest thing to which, I guess women have a lot of gay friends. That's basically dating. I have a gay family member who has is dating a girl. It's not really, but like I don't know. That's what it seems like to me. I don't get it. Okay.
So those of you that finally read How Can I Get Through to You, even though I've been telling you all to be reading this for like 2 years now, for those of you that have read it, you'll have some of the language already. For those of you that haven't, don't worry, we'll break it down. But yeah, this just got me.
All right, so let's see what this says. So women who are unmarried and childless are the happiest people of all, according to a professor. So just a professor. Okay. Women who are unmarried and childless are the happiest subgroup of the population as a whole, according to the happiness expert. Paul Dolan, a professor of behavioral science in the London Institute of Economics, says that while men benefit from being married, women generally don't. I feel like you can't say like women like having kids too. Okay. Although tying the knot and having children are typically considered makers of success in our society, women who shun the pressure despite the stigma tend to be happier and healthier. Okay. Oh, fuck. I think I already know what's going to be said. Hold on. Okay. Wait, hold on. I think I heard something like this. I'm going to say this before I read the article. Oh, okay. There was a thing that had said, I don't even know if it was about the women specifically, but I remember hearing the concept that like people who didn't have kids were happier than people who had kids, but like their happiness level didn't gauge correctly, because of course you'll be happy. Having a kid is very stressful, so you will be considered less happy when you have kids, but like you're still happy you have kids. It's just understandable that the stress of having kids makes you overall less happy, but it still doesn't mean that you're less fulfilled as a person. So I think that's where we're going here. I think that's where we're going here. I think that's where we're going to end up going here. And I guarantee you that's what it's about. Okay? Okay, so Paul Dolan, person of Hill Science and School Economics, said the unmarried children and childless women are also likely to outlive their marriage. Okay, who cares? Speaking in the hey, blah, 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 the best-selling author. Care. Okay. He said, you take less risks, you earn more money at work, and you live a little longer. Yeah, it's exactly what I was saying. It's exactly what I was saying. She, on the other hand, has to put up with that, and she dies sooner if she's never married. I would rather die sooner and be less happy and raise a kid because I'll be more fulfilled than not do that. Like, that's what you're basically doing. So, like, I could already tell you that this is a very out of context thing. I think it's an intentional cope. If you don't have kids, you may be happier because you get to focus on yourselves fully, but that doesn't mean that you're going to have as much fulfillment. If that's you and you feel fulfilled not having kids, God bless you. But most people want to have kids. I think there's probably a biological imperative that makes you want to have children. It makes you feel more fulfilled raising children. That's the whole aspect of life. Okay, happy ever after cites evidence from the American study, blah, 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 compares levels of pleasure and unhappiness in unmarried, married, and divorced people. Yup, it's just gonna be that. The guy in the article read the data wrong and had to walk it back. Did they? Okay, interesting. I'm gonna watch. I think I'll watch the Ab and Preach video after this, and then I think that she had a response video to this as well, right? Okay, interesting. But that's what I'm going to assume is the case, because that makes sense, but it doesn't. I don't think it accurately is adequately like addresses everything.
Me thinking about the bars in hell, the era that we were going through and maybe still are going through, why so many of us have been like, all right, not just high dating standards, but why it's just become so evident. Is what women want, what the ladies and the babies want, is it really that complicated? What do they really want? What do we really want? And then I'm going to talk about toxic masculinity and psychological patriarchy. It'll kind of be a brief gist of this video that I did. So if you want to see even more detailed, dive deeper into that topic, check that video out. I was really proud of that video. And then, yeah, the last part, we're going to talk about how feminism can possibly bridge the gap, or trying to whatever arguments I'm making that I think fall into feminism. With all that being said, bonjour, nakam hi, welcome back to season 1, episode 7, aka the season finale of You Can Always Change Your Mind, a show where if I do my job right, you'll feel inclined to do what the title says or not, because you know what? Me, cool, fun, young, millennial auntie, okay? I'ma let you hang out with me. I've got lovers. I just be doing my own thing, you know? Your parents say I don't want to grow up. I say, yeah. I'm kidding. That meaning everyone changes in their own time. Do your thing. I'm not the boss of you. So if all of that sounds good and interesting, everything that I said at the beginning of this video, stick around. We're going to give a shout out to today's sponsor, and then we're going to get into it.
Oh, she's going to post a reaction at in literally 40 minutes. So that'll be good.
Also check out my socials. They're all here. I do
a reaction to Ab and Preach's reaction, which I'm going to watch theirs next.
Bad job of promoting them, but here they are. Thank you to Care Of for sponsoring today's video. So I'm sure most of you have heard about Care Of, but for those
all right. Go. The link will be in the description.
And they also provide build their books.
It's just like a bunch like a fucking V-pack. Okay.
All right. Men must
to know love. Men must be willing to let go of the need to dominate. Oh.
Be willing to let go of their need to dominate. Bell Hooks, the will to change.
Okay. Maybe. I guess it depends on the person that they want to be in love with.
So if you even know, like, I don't know, maybe a bit about feminism, you've probably heard the saying, a woman without a man is like a fish without a bicycle, or some sort of variation of that phrase. So a lot of people attribute it to Gloria Steinem, but she actually attributes it to Irina Dunn, who says she wrote it on a bathroom wall in the 1970s, and I guess it just caught on. This is all according to, quote, investigator, because I actually wanted to look up where it was from. Either way, the saying is basically a woman without a man is a fish without a bicycle, meaning fish don't need bicycles, just like women don't need men. I've always thought this phrase was really interesting. The first time I heard it, I was like, oh.
So like ultimately men don't need women, women don't need men, like in an individual level, but overall like men and women need each other. If you're somebody who doesn't like want to subscribe to that, sorry, it's fucking bad to people's spam calls. Generally speaking, like men and women need each other, obviously, for like procreation, and like having a partner is a very profoundly positive thing, you know?
Oh my God. Revolutionary.
I will say one thing, and this is something that I say all the time, is like something I've been talking about a lot. If your activism relies on putting down another group rather than building up your own group, like this video seems to be more about putting down men than building up women, then you're probably not a good activist.
A woman without a man is like a fish without a bicycle? Duh. We've all been 22. All jokes aside, I keep finding that when I look back at the 2010s, I'm seeing a lot of chicken heads coming home to roost. But chickens coming home to roost. It's interesting to see that in that girl boss era, so many women were like not only discovering this capitalized brand of feminism.
How good are we as managers of our companies and our organizations at seeing that the men are reaching for opportunities more than women? We've got to get women to sit at the table.
I include my
Yeah, she's right about that. That makes sense. I think that like there's a lot of women who don't want to sit at the table, and I think part of that's because we teach them not to from a societal perspective. I understand men and women are different, but I think there are some social aspects that we can't fully understand the full difference between men and women, except obviously we're fucking based and stronger. But in like a competitive, we'll say work environment, without trying to do some of these like stigmas. So like for women, I think that we generally, a woman who's like assertive is considered a bitch. A man who's assertive is considered like, and a more positive, like, oh, he's like a boss, he's a good guy, So if we can reduce that stigma, maybe women can advocate for themselves more and exist in like that kind of a sphere. I don't think that all of it is like absolute like one-on-one, like, oh, I don't like women. I think part of it's like we don't necessarily teach women to be more assertive and stand up for themselves as much as, and all this is changing. So
myself in that was kind of I was learning at the time, and being encouraged to lean in and stuff. It just seemed like, yes, women really can, quote, have it all. A lot of women started realizing, I think, in this time period especially, and not that this is the first time it's ever happened, but in the next wave, this was the time when we started realizing, oh, what do I really need a guy for besides if I like to have sex?
okay,
Or something along those lines. And it's not to say that the dudes didn't deserve
emotional compatibility. I don't know.
the kind of energy we were bringing, because I'm gonna get to it.
I'm gonna play
because
the
I've
game
been real
again.
nice to y'all. I've seen the numbers increase. I've been nice to y'all, okay? As I mentioned from the Pew Research, they were pointing out how men that are unpartnered, there's just diminishing of your quality of life, I guess, overall. And for women, it seems to be the opposite. In contrast, women benefit far more from being alone. According to Professor Paul Dolan, a happiness
can't do what I
expert
wanna
and
do.
professor of behavioral science at the London School of Economics, the quote,
What is she referencing here?
besides
Sorry.
if I the deal, I've seen the number pointing out how all
Unpartnered men are facing much worse economically than partnered men. This is economics. This has to do with money. It's probably because women bring in supplemental income. What is this one from? Is this from? This is Pew Research. This doesn't make them less happy. This is a conversation about like men and women. Like a man that's with a woman, women take in more money than they used to, so it's like kind of necessary to have partner. And it says partnered. Doesn't even, okay, that makes sense to me. But what about women? Where do they reference women here? I would say that women probably face the exact same thing.
and for women, it seems to be the opposite. In contrast,
But no, but it's not the opposite. This is one study. You don't show another study. This study seems to just be about unpartnered men and not about women. I don't even know which one she's referencing here. Which Pew Research are you referencing here? Because that doesn't she's about to like you would have to maintain the same article about like Pew Research about men and women. Nearly half of U.S. adults say dating has gotten hard. Which one is she referencing in there? With this Pew, because the only Pew study she has is that maybe it's in here. But now she's going to use one study that's just talking about men. Unpartnered men. I'm trying to find this specifically because I just feel like she's like really weird with her information. If I can find it. Let me continue.
of your quality of life, I guess, overall. And for women, it seems to be the opposite. In contrast, women benefit far more from being alone. According to Professor Paul Dolan, a happiness expert and professor of behavioral science at the London School of Economics, the quote, healthiest and happiest population subgroup are women who never married or had children. What also comes into this girl bossing and just being in charge of our own destinies and all the independence. I mean, let's also think about it. A lot of us have had this independence for a while, not because like it was like yeah, you're a woman, but it was like you need to just figure it out because we have to coddle the boys and then throw them to the side once they get old enough. And
I feel like it's interesting when you have like an outlier person speak on it. It's like, oh, I'm happy without somebody, which is probably a cope, but that's fine. I'm happier without like a guy, but she has like a guy best friend. She's probably like very with, and like, you know, maybe not sexually, but like probably like very emotionally compatible with or something. But then they'll be like, yeah, see, this is true, but it's not. It's not true. It's the difference between being happy and fulfilled. You can be very fulfilled without necessarily being super happy, because like being fulfilled takes responsibility, especially when you're engaging with a partner, as well as like having kids. Kids are not easy to be with. It doesn't necessarily make you happy, but it makes you feel fulfilled, which will bring happiness, of course.
You got to take care of everything and take care of them once we ruin them. So sort it out, scoot, scoot. And you have a job. Some of us were already working with that independence. So I think that's also, but anyway, lots more of us. We're finding that independence.
Because I've never been happier than I've been with my wife, and my wife feels the exact same way. Like we talk about this. Like I love my wife a lot, and we can't wait to have kids. And I know it's going to be hard to have kids. But especially women, I feel like it makes sense that, because like, especially like your first couple of years as a woman, first of all, you have to carry this baby in your body, which puts a lot of stress in your body. Then you have to birth it. Then you're fucking like all your fucking 9 months of uterine wall, whatever bullshit starts pouring out of your vagina. You have to recover from having the baby, because it is, I would say, like a level of a traumatic experience to push a fucking bowling ball out of your pussy, unless you're shoving bowling balls in there in general. Wait, she's queer romantically. She prefers women to men. Oh, well, then that makes sense. She's just a fucking well, maybe she's not lesbian, but she's like, she prefers women. Of course, she doesn't need a man. She's not necessarily attracted to men. Like, of course, she would say this. It's like, oh, hey, a lesbian person's like, yeah, we don't need men. Well, you don't like men. That'd be like a gay guy saying we don't need women. Of course not. Anyway, hormones are all off. It's an experience, and I think men need to be more sensitive to that. I mean, more understanding of that. Like, you know, when you're even if she's staying at home after she has a kid for a couple months, to help her take care of the kid, because that's like, you can't really sleep, especially if you're breastfeeding, because you got to fucking pump that shit every 2 fucking hours. It's crazy. It'll run you down. Give her a little break. It's she just carried your spawn in her for a long time. Respect and appreciate that woman that birthed that child for you, and like take care of her the best that you can. Be supportive there for you, because she carried it and she had to deliver it. You just looked at her pussy as it got fucking torn open. That's, you know what I mean? As a man, try to take care of your child and the mother. The first couple of years are going to be a big adjustment. You know what I mean? Don't just try to dump the kid off onto her, because you'll be tired. I get it, but also like try to be understanding and try to be like a little more active in the kid's life. You know what I mean? She just did like a whole fucking ass thing. Try to be there as a support structure. It's going to be rough for you guys. That's what I would say. But like, women have, like, of course, this makes sense to me, but it makes sense that like happiness versus, okay, let's keep going. You already know my point.
Sort of sexual liberation. There are all these dating apps coming out as well. And with dating apps, it's just numbers and screens, just tons and tons and tons of people. It's kind of like a little cyber dating buffet. You just click through left, right. People almost stop being people and are just the pictures and the brief bit that you might gather from them. Because of all of these options, and because, women started realizing, I don't need this. I don't need any of this. And some of us started even realizing, I don't even need to be a woman. What?
That just feels transphobic to me. I don't even need to be a woman. I mean, maybe it's like a little bit of a joke, but it's like, that's not what being trans. I mean, that's what I'm assuming they're alluding to trans people. That's not what being trans is about. It's not like, I don't need to be a woman. It's about like having a deep amount of like distress associated with your gender and your sex not aligning. Like, it's a very serious, real thing that some people go through. So, okay, maybe they're just joking. Maybe I'm just being stupid about it, but
sorry.
I mean, I make jokes like that all the time. So,
quote, standards increased. And I wouldn't necessarily even say that they increased. I would just say that more of us felt comfortable to voice them, not only to ourselves and to our friends, but online and to each other. Like, the bar is in hell. You say that to another girl and they just know. Or you say that, I shouldn't say another girl, but you know what I mean. Like, you say that and they know. They just know. To the point where you hear variations.
I mean, I guess that's better standards. I've dated some real shit women too, but I don't go, the bar was really low for women. I learn from the experience and I get better and I move on and I become more dateable myself and I look for people that are more compatible with me. It's kind of how it works. When you're like young and you date, you're going to date shitty. It's such an interesting thing. When you're young, whether you're a guy or a girl and you date, you're going to date people who suck because you probably suck. You're young and you just don't realize it. And you're still exploring how to interact with people in a relationship setting and establishing boundaries and you know, doing the right thing. And we're like, oh, all men suck. Oh, all women suck. No, you're just a young, dumb fucking person that's trying to date when you don't know anything about yourself or other people, and you're still selfish, and you need to learn to like be better. Like, it's not that deep.
Or if y'all remember, the men are trash. God, we're ruthless. Ruthless. We were ruthless. Oh, God. I'm laughing because it was kind of fun, but it was also... And the reason that...
It was also not helpful. It's just annoying and dumb, but okay.
I say it was a little... is because of the next part. Not even trying.
He had become the kind of man who could walk into a house and make the women cry. Because with him, in his presence, they could. Toni Morrison, beloved.
What? This is so deep. Okay. What do women? I can answer what women want. Women want the same thing men want. Women want somebody they could be happy with. They can confide in emotionally. Men want the same thing. Somebody that can make them feel safe in different capacities. Men and women might provide different types of safety, but usually, and women can provide a similar type of safety. Women are working now, etc. But women tend to want somebody who could provide for them, like emotionally, financially, and even safety wise, like physically in some cases. But like men need a woman or want a woman who they can like break down to and confide in as well, and somebody who will take care of their kids help take care of their kids, because the mother's most likely going to be taking care of the kid more than the father. I just think the father should try to be a little more active. We want similar things. It's maybe they express themselves a little differently, but somebody that like we could be there with, and you can like actually be honest with them, and get your shit done. Open up and shit. That's respect. That makes sense. They want people want somebody who will never stop trying. That's what it comes down to. Never stop trying for your partner. You know what I mean? Like, always show them that they're worth something, and that also communicates to them that you're worth something that they should try for as well. Simple stuff, man.
So in my For the Boys video, I talked about how I was talking to this dude, and he was out here trying to tell me all these stats about how terrible men's lives are, and I was scared he was a men's rights activist, and I was just like, oh my God, what is happening? And then I tried to look up information at first, not because I thought he was right, but because I wanted to prove him wrong.
So I went to the internet and started Googling stats about male violence and comparing them to those of especially Black women. And to my dismay, some of the information he said was right.
Long story short, I did the research and I was like, oh my God, are men okay? And one of the books that came up in the research that was recommended was this one, The Will to Change, Men, Masculinity, and Love. Thanks. Okay. So I started reading it, and the first thing that stuck out to me, the first thing that Bell Hooks had the nerve to say was that women needed to speak our lack and our loss when it comes to how we feel about the men around us.
To speak our hunger for male love would demand that we name the intensity of our lack and our loss.
Speaking from...
It just sounds like it's setting reasonable boundaries with the people around them. That sounds like good advice.
My own experience, as to not try to put my experience on other people's. When I read that, I was uncomfortable, and I had to put the book down for a few weeks because I didn't like that.
What made you so uncomfortable to this? Okay.
I was activated, but thankfully I had, listened to Brene Brown, and I was like, when you get hooked, that's what she calls it, when you get emotionally hooked, investigate, try and see what's up. So I investigated and found out that I was so sad. I was sad. I was like, man, like, do I know my dad? Do I know my brothers? Am I my bro? I'm sorry. But I was genuinely pretty wow, that's it. That's how I felt my whole life. I'm someone who in general loves intimacy and connection, and I always want that no matter who I'm friends with, but it's always been difficult to have that with guys in my life. And so it's always been very, very, very frustrating.
Sure. I mean, men tend to be a little more emotionally closed off. Absolutely. That's the thing. I think that we need to teach men to open up a little more in a positive way. You don't want to be going around fucking with your heart in your sleeve. That's, I think, is kind of embarrassing. But open up a little more, confide, especially in a loved one, like my wife. I confide a lot in my wife. It's good to find somebody that you could do that to or do that with. For sure, I can see why that would be frustrating. Set solid boundaries. I get that.
And it's hurt a lot. A lot of times it's hurt. So having to speak that lack of not being able to have that kind of connection that I've wanted with the men in my life, and that loss of not having felt that for so long, it hit. We need to be able to be honest with ourselves about how our feelings are hurt, that a lot of the dudes we know, it's not just men you date, dads, brothers, uncles, cousins, best friends, gay or straight, queer, whatever. If you're socialized as a boy, that socialization ends up having a lot more to do with how in control can you be, how dominant can you be, how much of a quote man can you be, than how are you as a person? How do you feel? Who are you? Who are you discovering yourself to be? How do you choose to express yourself? Let's talk. It's not that. It's not that for the boys. While I completely understand that there needed to be a time for anger, there needed to be a men are trash time, there needed to be all of us online just dragging y'all for filth. There
probably didn't need to be that at all. Listen, there's a lot of... Okay, so here's the thing. A lot of women hate men, and a lot of men hate women. but like they understand it in a way like it was like I hate women, but it's like but I know I shouldn't express it because I know it's like wrong, but like you don't actually hate women, and she doesn't actually hate men, or at least I hope she would agree with that. She hates like the men or the women that have failed you in your life. That's how it's very normal. You don't need to go around expressing that. That's how we have like the fucking like the manosphere movement in this way. That's very much about anti-woman instead of pro-man. And you have like some of the more extreme feminist spaces where that's more about shitting on men than the building on women. It's just that people we've gotten to a point where people have felt too comfortable expressing themselves. We went too far. Not everything you say or think is actually valid. And sometimes you could just have it inside your head and you don't need to be fucking stupid about it. The men are all trash movement didn't exactly help, but you do you.
To be a time, because I don't know, to me,
yeah, vent with your friends. You don't have to vent online and be like, I hate men. But we did it online too. Except we would just say go back to the kitchen. So I guess all's fair in love and war, huh?
It almost felt kind of cathartic, and it was also finding camaraderie, all of that. But there also then needed to be a time of looking at that and going, okay, we said it, maybe took it a little too far, and we have this rise that we see of this manosphere, incels, all this sort of stuff, retaliating against this independence, because you see the pendulums. That's an extreme reaction, but sure. What can we learn from that? And what I think we can...
Well, that extreme reaction comes from I think that there's some of them, I don't know. I mean, there's probably a lot of reasons. I think there's a lot of young men who feel very frustrated with society, and like a lot of other people who feel that way, they get targeted towards hating women. This happens like when race areas, people will become like anti a particular race. They'll blame them for the problems. They'll blame women for your problems. They'll blame men for your problems. They'll blame this. And we don't really sit down and like actually think, because you know who the real problem is, bro? It's the bourgeoisie, guys. But seriously, I think a lot of men's issues, especially like the difficulty of finding jobs and maintaining jobs and employment, have to do with lack of available jobs. Jobs are, they're losing jobs. The wages are getting driven down by technology. The upper class is kind of sucking all the monies up. We're getting fucked. And especially when you're in school and you're told that you should just go to college even if you don't know what you want to do, the terrible advice, you should go offer more trades. Men will probably gravitate towards those more. Those are good paying jobs that will last a long time, because it's difficult to automate welding. It's difficult to automate, plumbing and carpentry, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of things here, and I think that they get kind of like roped into like this anti-woman movement. So
learn from that is that it's a lot deeper than just thinking men are trash, in my opinion.
And I think that like some women will operate in that similar capacity as well, some of their frustrations, but
in my opinion, speaking a frustration into the world about how difficult it is to not only connect with men, understand men, vibe with men, but even tolerate them at times. Like, that's wild to think about. There's a
I mean, again, this is something that men experience with women as well. So it's not like the way that she's talking is in like a way where it's like everything is very anti like man's fault, rather than being like, yeah, I understand the frustration, but men and women are very different. And so if you're having a frustration with a man, they're probably having a frustration with you as well, because it's just like we can be very different in our perspectives. Some of it's biological, some of it's learned, and like, it's when you say like, oh, I don't like it, the men won't open up to me. A lot of other men are more probably like, oh, why do you feel the need to try to like go past the boundary and invade, try to like get something out of me that I've set an express limit of I don't want to express. You know what I mean? So these are two different perspectives that are kind of battling each other, and it's good to try to understand that not everybody's coming from a malicious area. And if you operate in that with that thought process, you could probably start to really remedy. It's not just about what men may be doing. It might be about the way that you're interacting with men, and same thing with like women. It might be the way that you're interacting with women.
There's a portion of the population that people are like, oh, men, y'all. A lot of us
same thing with women, bro.
Have had to settle for the bare minimum when it comes to the men in our lives, have had to make excuses for them, have had to do all manner of emotional labor.
Okay.
And because we care more about masculinity versus femininity, and if femininity is a mouth, masculinity is a hand, we care more about what's visible and what's seen and what can emotional labor, people are like, oh, that's not a real thing. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Okay? Yes.
Sure, emotional labor is a real thing. I agree with that, for sure.
The one time you'll see me get angry is when I'm talking about feelings. You have us doing all manner of emotional labor once all of us started realizing we could do, bad all by ourselves. And really we're committed to that. and saw the fruits of our labor and all of that stuff, no matter how capitalist pink washed it was.
Like, we just know that it's just not true. Like, like, most women don't want to be without a man. Most men don't want to be without a woman. Like, it's not, we figured out we could, no, it's like you figured out that you can be content without being in a relationship with a guy. That's awesome. Good for you. But there's not like this wide range aspect of this where it's like, yeah, all women realize. No, not all women. Some women. My mother realized it after she got fucked over by my father, right? Left her pregnant, I was pregnant and all that. I get that. But it's not all women. Just wanted to be explicitly clear, okay?
In my opinion, brought about this even bigger chasm because not only were men then already kind of in that camp of not really being emotionally intelligent or being required to be sex economics, the man works and women hold power as sex and give it to men depending on how much money like that weird messed up mentality of all men have to offer is what's on the outside, the physical. It needs to be protection and financial. Once we all started getting more and more rights,
okay,
what did you think was going to happen? And I mean, you're seeing some rights rolled back now.
Sure.
Wonder who people have to start depending on once more and more of these rights are rolled back. The people that are in power, and who are going to be a lot of those folks. But I feel like
rich people. I mean, again, like, you're just not. I get what you're saying. I would try to focus your attention on like very affluent rich people. Well, I guess that means the same thing to an extent, rather than just trying to shit on like men. I just feel like it's such a convenient distraction for us to not really try to build together in some capacity and fight issues.
Like that chasm just got even bigger because it's like, we don't need you for any of this extra stuff. And now we don't even need you for this emotional labor because y'all are like different types of friendships and intimate types of friendships are being more acceptable, more widespread. More folks are willing to even, especially women are willing to even just have kids and raise them in a communal sort of sense with their friends. Like all of these norms.
I don't know if that's stable. I feel like a kid should be like raised in like a two-parent. Well, not just a two-parent. Well, I'd say a two-parent household primarily. In a friend sense, that just sounds bizarre to me. I don't know. That just sounds weird in a community. I feel like that's just not happening to that degree. I mean, family should absolutely help. Listen, I just think that like that's generally how people operate. You don't have to do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you feel like I'm being silly or whatever, that's fine. But I think that like a child should be in a two-parent household so that they can learn what love is and what it means to love, and they can get taught how to find it themselves. This is why, like, and if you don't get raised in that capacity, I think it can be difficult for you to find love. This is why I always talk about, or I will often talk about how, like, I don't necessarily think that two parents should stay together just because they have kids if they don't love each other, because they're going to teach an incorrect interpretation of love to their children, and then their children are, you know, not going to be able to have healthy relationships. Whereas you can even still live together, you can still raise your kids together, you can do all these things together without necessarily being married or staying married. You know what I mean? So
this nuclear family, all this sort of vibe is changing, and
I would argue one of the reasons why we have a lot of less than stellar men nowadays is because of bad fathers that leave their children. You know, people are always like, oh, society's getting so fucking soft, and it's because LGBTQ people exist. And I'm like, you know, maybe the reason society's getting so fucking soft is because fathers are failing. They're fucking leaving. And then the response is like, yeah, but the moms, they don't let them see your kid. Shut the fuck up. If you want to see your kid as a man, you will see your kid. You may not win custody, full custody. Women tend to get valued for that. They tend to get priority for that. And I understand that. But if you want to see your fucking kid, you can see your fucking kid even if it's every other weekend. And if you actually care about your kid, you'll do it. But the reality is a lot of men are just not showing that they give a fuck. And then they want to be like, yeah, but there are disparities in the system. Yes, the fucking system, when it comes to kids, when it comes to custody, absolutely, women tend to be more advantaged. But then you see a lot of men who just don't give a fuck, and it's to a point where, you know, my mother's advice is for women who, like, they get divorced and they're like, oh, I don't know what to do with like the dad and this and the other thing. You know what she says? I'm not wrong. I'm right. You're wrong. You know what she says? She says, let them have what they want. And then a lot of times men just don't give a fuck. The reality is there's a lot of men who just don't want to be in their kids' lives. If you can be a good father without being a good husband. You don't need to be a good husband. Be a good father. A lot of men are giving up, and they're using this excuse of like, well, women have it easy in the system. It tends to be, it's seemingly that in the most cases, men don't want to have anything to do with their kids. You will be able to get partial custody regardless of where you are. you're lying at this point. If you are a father and you want to see your kid, unless you're a violent fucking criminal, you will be able to see your kid. You may not get equal custody, but you can see your kid. Don't give up. See your kid. If you want to be in your kid's life, you can, in almost every circumstance, be in your kid's life. And then you guys will be like, yeah, but we don't get full visits. Okay, that sucks. You know what? Be as good of a father as you can be in a broken system, then. That's what it comes down to. Okay, you can fight the unfair system while also acknowledging that like a lot of men don't give a fuck about their kids. It's unfortunate, you know. But people don't want to talk about that part. Every time it's like, yeah, there's not a lot of kids in life. Yeah, but what about what women do? Listen, as a man, if I had a kid with somebody, and I would see my kid, that would be it. I would be able to see my kid. I would sue, and I would see my kid. So, and I didn't say all fathers are pieces of shit. I didn't even say that. You're just not listening. You're so sensitive to what I'm saying, you've decided to create a narrative of what I said, even though it's not what I said. That's just a fact. If you want to be in your kid's life, unless you're a fucking criminal, you can have visitation, you can be able to see your kid. And that needs to be the focus. You want to build strong men? Build that. Start calling out bad fathers for not being in their kids' life. They don't have to like the mother, but they can be respectful and they can help raise them. So,
let's say a guy that's been taught their whole life, the only thing you have to offer is being powerful, being in control, money, dominance. Those people are just left out in the cold. Like, I think most dudes in the 2010s looked up one day and were just bald-headed and confused. Like, genuinely, like, wait a minute. And they thought it was fun for a while. Sex-positive feminism. And I'm gonna put that in quotes because I know a lot of people in the last video had commented, or previous videos commented, that, like, it's not the real sex-positive feminism, but it's the mainstream one. A lot of them were enjoying it for a time, you know, get to have sex. The girls are like, we don't need you for anything. And now only single men are on the rise. You see how we gotta look back to then look forward? A lot of this could be helped if we allowed men, the menses, is what I'll say, the space to become more emotionally intelligent, I think. But the way psychological patriarchy is set up.
The paradox for boys is that in order to be worthy of connection, they must prove themselves invulnerable button-down warriors in the world's emotional marketplace. In the world of boys and men, you're either a winner or a loser, one up or one down, in control or controlled, man enough or a girl.
I think that some of this is a little exaggerated, but sure, I guess generally kind of. All right. I mean, in general, you should still make sure that you're reserved in your emotional responses as anybody, really. But like, I guess you'd say as a man in this instance, you know, because you don't want to just go around like throwing off all your emotions to like random people you don't really know, but...
Where in this setup is the capacity for love? Terrence Real, how can I get through to you?
So I'm going to probably be inserting a lot of clips from my previous video just so I don't have to keep repeating myself. But we've talked about toxic masculinity, and a fun fact that I found out when I was researching back then and now is that toxic masculinity was created by the mythopoetic men's movement of the 90s. Now, we hear this term all the time, but what exactly does it mean? I found a lot of definitions, but the one or ones that I seem to have settled upon is that it's actually just a set of behaviors or beliefs that include, but are not limited to, suppressing one's emotions or masking distress, maintaining an appearance of hardness, and violence as an indicator of power. Now, funny enough, this
kind of makes sense. I mean, I guess I can generally agree with that. I feel like it's weird to define it, but it's really just anything that you're doing, like... Yeah, it's just like, it's basically just putting on a front to like your own detriment, you know? Not everybody has to wear their whole heart in their sleeve, but, you know, sure.
This term was actually coined by the mythopoetic men's movement of the 80s and 90s as a reaction to second wave feminism. Men were fighting back against this belief that society was trying to feminize young boys, but also that society was trying to like hypermasculate them. So in the 80s and 90s, you had men paying like $75 or more to go on these retreats to connect back to their manhood with other men. Think an all-boys retreat focused on spiritual connections with natural manhood, drum circles, mythological storytelling, and young. Lots of young. And we talked about the like, it's a certain kind of men that can afford going away for a weekend to just do that, these men's retreats. But anyway, they had talked about toxic masculinity as traits toxic to masculinity and made it.
So this person, Wayne Smith in the chat, got a little offended by what I said. They said, I have kids. My kids, but some dads don't get to see their kids for no reason. I'm just letting you know, my man, there is no father, or excuse me, there is no wide amount of fathers that want to see their kids that don't get to see them. There are and if they are, those are outliers. The reality is like you will still be able to get visitation and be able to see your kids if you want to, unless you're some kind of a fucking criminal or you're like so toxically bad. Like it's to the point where like if you're a dad in jail, like you have to, like I dated somebody where like when they were younger they were forced to go to the jail to see their father, even in a space that would be considered traumatic for a kid. Like men can see their kids. Do they get the same visit or custody? No, not generally speaking. No, generally the woman is favored when it comes to raising their kids, and I understand that, right? But if you want to see your kid, if you want to be in your kid's life, 99,000 times out of a fucking 100,000 times or more, 99.999, most of the time you'll be able to see your kid, barring some kind of like extreme situation. That's the point that I'm making. And there's a lot of men, and there are people in the manosphere who won't want to acknowledge that fact. They think that like men are fucking like golden, the people who can never do anything wrong. But like there's an issue with bad fathers. It's just a fucking fact. And if you don't want to call it out, you're just contributing to more bad fathers. And you seem like you're a good father. So don't let those bad fathers make you look bad. If you're a good father, you should want to call these people out. Because they make you look bad. They make men look bad. They make they make fathers look bad. Fathers are amazing parents. They need to exist. And we need to set higher standards for them. That's what I'm saying.
At a point to acknowledge that guys do need to be able to express their feelings. It is toxic not to be able to.
Jerk off.
They just, I feel, kind of had this, there's no way that men can be men around women or so. They were just very committed to man and that identity. So I think there were still limits to what it could do, but I do still think that for what they were trying to do, man, hey, I can kind of get it. Either way, the 2010s as well, you saw a lot of people talking even more about toxic masculinity, mansplaining, like literally, y'all, I'm not gonna lie. It felt like anything men did, we were like, what? Why are you breathing?
Dynamite's gonna make everything all right.
Euphoria, shut the fuck up. I know that was you. I ain't even got to look. I should send your ass back to Crenshaw P with his high coat hangers. Would you like that?
Literally anything men did, we were so agitated. And I'm not saying it wasn't deserved isn't the best.
It wasn't deserved. So here's the reality. And this is one of those things where it's like people are like, yeah, it was kind of deserved because men suck. No, it wasn't. It never was deserved. I'm going to be absolutely real with you. Okay. There's a lot of people, regardless of identity group, who over-identify with their identity once they realize like there's an issue. There are definitely men can be fucking assholes, and so can women. But there's a lot of people that just wanted to shit on men. That's it. They just wanted to shit on men because they thought it was funny. And that's fine, be my guest, but don't pretend that like, yeah, men kind of deserve it. Why? How do men deserve it? I find it interesting when we have these conversations about like the negative aspects of the patriarchy. We always talk about it in a way where it's like everything's men's fault. But like I wasn't born into the patriarchy, right? Or I was born into it. So if you want to call it out, I didn't create it. Now, oh, you uphold it. So do women. It's always interesting because the only time I really, and I'm not assigning this specifically to her, but the only time I hear about like the patriarchy existing is anytime a man says, hey, I'm feeling disenfranchised in some capacity. Yeah, well, you know, the patriarchy did this, basically saying that it's like your fault. Well, you're a man, so it's your fault. You did this to yourself. It's like, well, what? I was born. I don't have control over everything. It's fucking insane. And it goes both ways, because then there are some men that are like, oh, men are the best because men have built everything. It's like, did you build anything? No, I work at McDonald's. Oh, okay, so maybe shut the fuck up. You don't need to over-identify with being, like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, if you don't want men to get blamed for doing... For creating the patriarchy or individual men, then stop as an individual man trying to steal the accomplishments of other men that aren't you. You know what I mean? It goes both fucking ways.
It's a word. I'm not saying that it hadn't been earned over time. The reaction, the response, the reaction.
Dude, what is happening?
A lot of us were
right
also talking about the patriarchy. Like, man, F the patriarchy. Like, the way the patriarchy set up, freaking patriarchy. Yes. But I think, and if we're going by Terrence Real's definition, we were talking a lot about political patriarchy. Patriarchy can be divided into two categories.
I am just not getting a
political patriarchy and psychological patriarchy. Political patriarchy fits the above definition the best. It's the outward sexism that has been the focus of a lot of feminist writing. In America, white women on average make 82 cents to every white man's dollar, with that wage gap increasing depending on your race /
So with the wage gap, people always, I've gotten some of the worst fucking groups today. I don't understand. With the wage gap argument, something to understand is that the wage gap and she might mention this, but the wage gap drastically, it exists, but it drastically reduces. It drastically reduces based on when you start compiling a few different things, like jobs picked, hours worked, time taken off, etc., etc., etc.
Sir Hurst super chatted $9.99.
Oh, thank you so much.
Been a big fan for a long time. Much love, Papa bless.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Et cetera, et cetera. And it goes down to about 2% after that. And, there's multiple reasons for that, you could say. One reason is probably just some sexism that's like left over, unfortunately. And then I think a big part of it, has to do with women not being taught to advocate for themselves. I mentioned this earlier. Women need to learn to because again, in society, if a woman advocates for herself, she's a bitch. If a man advocates for himself, he's considered like a boss. He's a boss ass motherfucker. You know what I mean? And so I think that if we deal with that issue, we could slowly change the gap. Ultimately, I think women and men kind of are going to always generally gravitate towards different jobs, but that doesn't matter. There's also conversation to have about some more feminine jobs like social working jobs and caretaking jobs, despite the fact that they are very valuable to society, are undervalued pay-wise. Which was a conversation about how we should value femininity more in society. Absolutely. But I actually wiped this before I forgot to clear this pad. So yeah, for sure. There's a conversation to have there as well. But yeah, I hopefully she brings up that context.
Ethnicity. Canada, you ain't exempt from this either. Political patriarchy it's men leading the helm in the multi-billion-dollar beauty industry directed at women. It's Kamala Harris being the first woman to become vice president 100 years after women were given the right to vote.
Hold on a second.
It's like, Canada, you ain't exempt from this either. Political patriarchy it's men leading the helm in the multi-billion-dollar beauty industry directed at women. It's
maybe that's patriarchy. Like maybe. Like it seems to be gay men that like are at the forefront of that. Is that patriarchy? Or I mean, it's possible. It's an interesting thing to think on. I don't exactly know why. I mean, okay, we'll just continue.
Kamala Harris being the first woman to become vice president 100 years after women were given the right to vote. And it's like well over 200 years that America has been a democracy. It's bullshit. Again, fair play.
Hey,
but
repeal the 19th, guys. I think that's the right for women to vote, right? Repeal the 19th, guys.
Now it's time, I believe, to talk about psychological patriarchy. Me and my hidden agenda. I've been trying to get people to talk about this for a couple of years now. Woof.
All right, let's
trying to spread the gospel of Terrence Real. Please don't be problematic. Please. As Real describes it, psychological patriarchy is a dynamic of qualities being masculine or feminine, where half our human traits are exalted, while the other half are devalued. Guess which traits?
Okay, I think I could agree with that. I do think that there is a profound or a fundamental lack of value of femininity in society.
Ariel super chatted $5, hoping you bring back workout content, Sir Guttural. Is nice seeing realistic progress, not fitness influencer garbage. Smile, love you. Take it easy.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Or sister. The only reason I haven't done that is because I get, when I do too much content about my life, it makes me not like want to do that anymore. So like one of the reasons I stopped working out last time is because I just got so overwhelming with like also trying to make it content, and it just kind of frustrated me. It wasn't the sole reason, but yeah, I do kind of agree with this. Like, yeah, I think that there's a fundamental lack or a value of femininity in society. I can agree with that. Okay.
Traits are devalued. Gas. Just a little gas. Any traits seen as feminine or feminine leaning are immediately mocked out of young boys and men. By all of us. Real talks about how we teach young boys and girls in complementary ways to bury themselves. In young girls, we teach complacency and deference. In young boys, we teach... What the So in Real's book, in Hooks' book, those are the two I like to pair together. I've said this before. And if you just look around you, I think, you notice this weird difference between, one, how we separate kids and then teach boys how to act a certain way versus girls. A lot of times, it doesn't set any of us up to, if you're expecting that category, boys and girls, to eventually grow up and come together and marry. We don't set it up for those individuals to have a healthy relationship within that. And listen, I know patriarchy and capitalism do not care about a healthy relationship. I know.
So here's my thing is like, I tend to agree with what she's saying. I think that like generally men and women will gravitate in like a little bit in different ways. But you know, so it makes sense to teach them a bit differently. But then at the same time, I think that like sometimes it can go a bit too far. But I tend to agree with what you're saying, you know? Okay.
I'm just saying, though, a lot of us might forget that those are two very big forces in our lives and still operate in the same manner of, okay, well, I still do want a husband and kids and stuff. And for those people, it's like, well, how is that going to happen if the person that you want to be with is taught, sold, and beaten into submission that
if they have feelings, if they try to share their emotions, if they try to express themselves in any way that is outside of this box of masculinity, the things that we've decided are masculine, then prepare to catch these hands. And not just from men, not just women, all of us. A lot of times, think about a time when you were guilty of reifying some sort of weird masculine trait in a dude. Think about it. Think about it. And I know what you
Hey, she's spitting facts on that one, man. Like, women uphold it too. She's what she's saying right there. I mean, there's areas of this I disagree with, obviously, but like like the whole claim that like men don't need women is like obviously preposterous. But so far, like that's true. Like there are women who uphold the same fucking shit as well. You know, like when a man like fucking needs to cry, sometimes like a woman will be like, oh, like don't be a pussy, blah 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 blah, and then they won't. And this isn't for everybody, but they won't even let the guy be able to open up. You know what I mean? In the privacy of the household, which is like, that's where the area where this really needs to happen. We don't need everybody to cry. I never had that problem with my mother. My mother's a very strong woman. My mother's a very strong woman. Raised me without my father. My family was also very, really solid and strong as well. They helped raise me as well. A lot of support systems. My mom was like a man, I'd say. She could be a little bit emotionless sometimes. There's a lot going on there, but she never taught me that it was not okay to like cry. I remember when my Jaji had passed away, and I walked away to cry, and my mother said, "You don't have to walk away. You can let everybody see that like you're upset. It's okay to be upset." You know what I mean? So like we all have some issues and not others. I'm gonna teach my kids, whether they're boys or girls, to just be strong and they don't have to fucking cry, pussy, even if you're a girl.
might be thinking, well, if we don't have the power, and men have always had the power, then men are the ones who made this stuff. So why do we need to sympathize with them? Remember how people aren't a monolith? Maybe there
you go. Exactly. People aren't a monolith. So.
Are some men. In fact, there are some men that feel that power, dominance, and control is attractive. It is alluring. It is seductive, and it is something that they want. If you're that kind of person,
well, women like that too. Like, I mean, let's be honest. Like women, there are a lot of women who like powerful men as well. I think all women like powerful men. They just want those powerful men to be a little more sympathetic. Like women don't want a bunch of guys going around generally acting like women, and then guys don't want a bunch of women going around acting like men, so to speak. So like it's not about like completely shifting about like what is a man and a woman, et cetera, et cetera. It's more just about like being a little more sensitive to each other, I guess, more than anything else, and valuing femininity in society better.
And you find yourself in a position of power, you are going to try to reiterate that your traits, the personality traits you have, the qualities you have, don't make you a bad person. Oh, yeah. They make you good. They, in fact, are how it should be. And more men should be like you. And if they're not men. Oh, they're women. The people we've decided to demonize their traits. God, y'all started adding gendered traits, and it's all been downhill from here. Well,
nobody added gendered traits. Those traits kind of existed. I would say they started off like biologically, they're rooted in some kind of biology. It's just that these things are a bit dated, especially now when we have like a lot of technologies to bridge the gap between a lot of these different things. That's more than anything else, I would say. There's no need to uphold some of these things. Sure.
You are told to suppress so many parts of yourself and told in violent ways, physically, emotionally, all of that. And then you see it reified in the world around you. And then after, you get into a relationship, let's say, and you're expected to know how to be, let's say, emotionally available or a bit intelligent or any of that stuff. It's like a complete 180 for you. And I get that it can be confusing. Ooh. I've had a lot of patience for dudes that I've dated. But then sometimes I'm like, okay, girl, hey, we all had to figure it out. Let's wrap it up here. Let's go. To me, I think that speaks more to fear than anything else, because it is scary to stand on a ledge on your own. It is scary to be a straight dude and go out into the world and decide that you're going to do something that people have told you is feminine and therefore bad or wrong or not something you should ever desire to want to do, and still hold your head up and do it. There's a lot of fear that is associated with that. There's a lot of gender policing of men by other men specifically, particularly those kinds of men that like to be in control more, and really, even if they don't.
Again, I think that the women engage in this as well in some instances, sure.
Buy into this definition of what manliness is. And then, on the outside, we have the rest of us that do sometimes.
Isn't it weird though? Like, I feel like people do the same thing about my content. Sometimes like it doesn't need to be that deep. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, let's have this really, and it can be interesting and stimulating, but like let's have this robust conversation about like men and women and all these like toxic things that have been done this way, blah, 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 And then it's like, sometimes it's just like, yeah, you don't have to, but in like a real world perspective, it's like, do we need to get to so deep or do we just need to be like, hey, it's okay that you can cry sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes it's not that deep. The message doesn't need to be that deep. It's not even going to necessarily connect with most people.
Reapply what it means to be a man to men. Some of us are guilty of it. I have been guilty of it. That's why I'm trying to be better. This is my penance. Research shows that men are at higher risk of isolation because they make friends less easily and don't take part in as many social activities or community groups as women. Something to also consider is this loneliness of single men is not just like they're unpartnered. It's like, it's not the easiest to make friends as adults. When you're trying that out, I can't imagine what it would be like to try to make friends with people when you like have no kind of emotional intelligence or like, I don't know, are awkward or...
It's so weird to like just constantly assert that men have no emotional intelligence. I would argue that is your lack of emotional intelligence. You know, like, it's so weird. That's like the same thing where men are like, oh, women are just fucking stupid and they can't do like math or something. You know what I mean?
Don't know how to like let me clarify. What I mean to say is there's a certain level of vulnerability that comes with making new friends and like striking up a conversation with someone or anything like that. And if you're not someone who has had practice in being vulnerable or just allowing that, it can be difficult. I'm not saying it's difficult for everyone. Plenty of dudes have friends, but loneliness isn't just about romance. It's everything around it too. It's maybe you don't have a close relationship to your family and it's difficult for you to make friends and you don't have a partner. That can be very isolating. And you're seeing thousands of faces on a dating app and there are certain expectations of how you're supposed to look and what's going to make you attractive. And oh, listen, a lot of us have more in common than we think, okay? Just saying.
Growing numbers of, quote, lonely single men absolutely sounds like a recipe for more self-victimizing incels, more anti-feminist backlash, and more heated discussions on the internet message boards that all too often breed violence. Kylie Chung for Jezebel.com.
I've tried to keep it lighthearted, but also still very like, hey, feelings, ha ha ha. Kim did a video on this, and when I initially wanted to talk about this topic, I at first was just going to talk about the like psychological patriarchy and like what happens when you're not allowed to express your feelings and stuff, and that still fits here, but I also do want to speak to how dangerous it is when this seems to be a trend. Instead of a lot of young men that you categorize as incels, part of the manosphere, it's just a petri dish of disaster. You have this group of the population being told that their value lies in maybe money, maybe looks, both, and also if they don't have that they need to be able to be dominant or powerful enough to take those things. Unfortunately for them, they bought into this idea a little too much and looked around one day and were like, I was told if I traded in this part of my humanity, I was gonna get this, and I'm not getting this. Not only am I not getting this, the girls are making fun of us all. What the hell is going on? This is the part where it's hard to talk about because instead of feminism being a place where a lot of these young men, well, I don't know, actually, some of them might not have been able to be helped. Again, remember, you can't help everybody. But for maybe some of these young men, instead of feminism being a place where they could turn to reclaim, and I'm gonna say this on purpose, reclaim parts of their humanity, parts of themselves, be allowed to be free in expressing who they are and how they are. We kind of said, boo, you suck, get off the stage, boo, pass the mic. It didn't go well, but it's also not all feminism's fault. It's not, because again.
I could appreciate that. I could respect that. Okay.
Men have always been in this power position, this dominant position, or if men of recent have mostly been in this powerful dominant position, they're the ones who made it for other men. So, hi, yeah, that's also part of the, hi. A lot of people, no matter what side of
I just think it's so unproductive to constantly like blame men for like men didn't like not all men created like this fucking shit, you know? I don't know. Okay, let's continue.
Or ideologies or anything you fall on. It's like people are all looking up and being like, what the is going on right now? In my hopefully disciplined, optimistic way, we can all kind of come together again with our values. We're not gonna all get along on how to get it done. But I think if more of us, I should say, can come together to let feminism bridge that gap. Let it be that thing that is the antithesis of capitalism, you know? Let it be that thing that uses different tools. I think if more of us allow ourselves to let it be that, we're gonna have more men coming into the fold and also finding more parts of themselves and having more compassion for themselves. Because, oh my God, honestly, are y'all okay? I think a lot more men have a responsibility to, y'all, stop listening to these dating guru men. Why are you listening to these ashy men? I don't understand.
Sure.
Because if I want
to figure out.
Well, but the problem is, like, I agree with you on that, but then you're going around like misinterpreting data to say that like women are really happy without men, when it's like not the case, because you don't seem to understand the difference between like fulfillment and happiness, and you don't understand like the way that they actually engage with the data. And then you're like, but like I'm gonna be kind of like a fucking I'm gonna be a little bit radicalized when it comes to like feminism, but don't be radicalized when it comes to like men shit. Like it's like you know, how do you justify both of them? You know?
You know what? It's never mind. There are resources out there, and it's daunting because it's a lot of information. But fellas, y'all gotta expand your definition of feminism, because it can't just be, oh, I'm sex positive and I think women should get paid the same. Like, girl, that's not. Yes, lovely, beautiful gowns. Okay, so let's.
Now we're just criticizing. Okay, the thing, kick it. There we go. Now we're just criticizing people who are like generally advocating for the. Okay.
Skid Widget became a member.
Hey, thank you so much for the small guide. I appreciate it.
Let's move on. Like there's way more to it, and I think a lot more men would find a lot more of the freedom and again humanity that they're seeking if they just gave us a chance and listen. That's why the stuff the Feek is doing, whew, God, the Lord's work.
Okay.
For the straight ladies out there, do what you can to be as patient as you can. You don't have to do anything again, but if you are someone who wants to practice that muscle of hope, if you're in the mood for it, and you're trying to be more compassionate to the men in your life, just start talking with them a little more. I've been talking with my little brother a little bit more. Cool. And it's not like we talk a shit ton more than we used to, but like it's a bit more, and he's just been opening up more. And it's
he's probably just annoyed. He's like, oh my God, my fucking sister's asking me about this weird shit again.
So nice. I'm like, you have somebody to talk to. It's me.
Wow.
You know, I think we can do our best to do that. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So let's get into the final thoughts, and I'm going to get into more detail about the documents, because as much detail as I can. Let's just get into it.
I think I'm done with this dungeon almost, and I get engaged with this shit.
Woo, this is the last episode. It took me so long to film this. Like, not to film actually, but to get into filming it. I just was like, I don't know why I was putting it off for so long. I really hope that this video, the toxic masculinity one that I did before for the boys video, and the resources that I'm going to provide in the description.
Who do you think that's for, though? Like, that's just an interesting question, because like, okay, a video about toxic masculinity probably isn't going to resonate with like any men. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that they never should have made it. I'm kind of just like exploring it. But like, I don't think any like men that may have toxically masculine traits in a profound way would be engaging with that. You know what I mean? Like, the people that have the biggest issue with probably toxic masculinity are probably guys who are like, you know, a little more old school, and they're probably not watching her videos. They probably wouldn't listen to her on it. I'm just saying, but okay.
Like the link to the document. I hope that can be helpful for a lot of your dude friends, for any of your friends, specifically the dudes, but for any of your friends, because these are things that I used to teach me. These are things that other guys have told me have helped them. And I wanted it to be different media files because I also wanted it to be accessible. This document is like my opinion of what I think would be a good thing for dudes. I'm going to put some TV shows in there, because one show that I started watching recently that really that really captured all this stuff was RuPaul's Secret Celebrity Drag Race. Specifically in season 1, episode 3, there are like 2 of the guys that come to compete are straight cis white dudes, and like just the way they have this conversation, this reckoning with gender when they're it was just so great. And then I'm also going to put the Deuce in there because I fucking love
2 guys who were drag queens. Straight guy. Oh, that's interesting. I don't think that men tend to gravitate. Like, what is okay? I don't think that that's super okay. Interesting. All right, interesting.
And it's from the people that made The Wire, so I know a lot of guys are like, oh shit, yeah, The Wire, okay. Even though most of the episodes, not most, but a lot of the episodes are directed by women and written by women and produced by women. Yeah,
she was supposed to release her video about Ab and Preach. What happened?
Try to make it as versatile as possible and as accessible as possible, because this is my job. So yeah, kind of, I guess. I don't know. I'm still defining it, but let me know what y'all think about this very interesting topic. How single, lonely men are on the rise. How that's not something a lot of us, I think, want. And by lonely, I mean, even if the boys need more friends or more community, you know what I'm saying? It's not.
Wait, what happened to her video? This was supposed to be released yesterday at 3:30. I don't think it's already up. I don't see it. Right? Like, where'd it go?
Not necessarily that we need people to date these boys. Okay, I'm not saying that. I don't know who's saying that, but I'm not saying that. I'm saying we just need we need these boys to have more community.
It's alive.
Honest truth. So I want to know what y'all think about ways that could be possible. Again, for me, I really want to figure out doing some sort of free therapy here, or like men's.
Oh, she watches the Ab and Breach video. Okay,
for a while. I don't know. I have a lot of ideas, but then executing them is my difficulty. That's why I like community work, because not everybody's good at everything, and sometimes people are good at like coming up with ideas and visionary, but they're not going to execute it because they have like neurotype.
She's just rambling at this point.
Somebody in Montreal help me. I'm kidding. Check it on your dude friends. All right, this series, this season has been super fun. I have had such a good time. If y'all are in the chat, don't leave yet. I still got a little bit more. I've had a lot of fun doing this. It started out very serious with me having scripts for everything, and then it kind of became more commentary because I've still.
It's weird when people like separate. Like it's weird. I like it, but it's weird when they separate lives from like other stuff. It's bizarre sometimes. You know what I mean? So that's why I got confused.
Trying to figure out what I want to do here and what, I don't know, I guess my voice is, if that makes sense. Yeah, it seems to be in this vein. I am going to try streaming on a second YouTube channel. So follow this channel here. I'll link it.
It's not even in her recommended channels. What?
In the description as well. If you want to check those out, it's still me just
Is this
live.
her like, is there anything else here?
Because I don't like that disrespectful. Anyway, sorry, I really love this lighting. I'm like, well, that's deep swear. Streaming on a second YouTube. But if you still want to hear from me, you can listen to the Leftover Millennials podcast.
All right, this kind of just seems like a 5-minute plug. So, okay, cool.
For anyone saying you shouldn't give them this much attention, they have a larger platform than me. Their video is doing better than me, and they're saying something that, while it's true on the surface, is out of context and devoid of everything else. So,
okay. Listen, first of all, I think it's reasonable to respond to people who make claims about you. And it's fun for discourse. Now, okay. I watched the full video. I thought her video was overall not that bad. I just thought that like some of the statistics she used were like a little silly. Mostly the idea that like men don't need women, because I think men and women need each other, and I think that there should be a mutual respect there. And they talked about like, oh, women don't need men because they're happier without kids, but like happiness doesn't equal fulfillment, and there was like a lack of understanding of that. Overall, what she said was, there's some interesting, stimulating points. I may not have particularly cared for how she said it, but like also I think that just comes to the creator. Like people don't care how I say stuff as well, so that is what it is. But yeah, let's see what we got.
yes, I am going to talk about it. That's the last time I'm going to say
myself down a little bit.
Okay, let's start.
Okay.
Where can I put this? Oh my god.
All right, based. Let's do this.
Where? Okay, that's good.
I turn myself down a little bit.
I'm gonna hit play, and can y'all tell me about the sound?
Yeah.
Can y'all hear that?
This is a long ass video.
Oh no, her sound is terrible.
Oh, I edited it down. Oh, but two.
Oh my god. Shit. Okay. Just want to make sure. Okay.
Good points that she made, and so if you want, you can check out her video and see which parts you guys agree with or don't agree with.
Okay.
I'll let us inform you, so the link is below, so you can go watch it.
Audio's terrible.
Yeah.
But did they watch it?
Probably.
Did they?
Yes.
Watch it.
Oh, no video again.
There was a long ass video. Yeah, I can't talk about this stuff in 20 minutes. Y'all might be able to, but I can't do that. I'm learning to edit myself down, but a lot of the stuff is complex. TikTok is making y'all think that shit isn't as complicated and
I got
doesn't
you
need
guys.
as much
Relax.
time as it does.
Relax.
It does.
I got
All
it.
right.
That's why just live video reactions are based.
But I'll play portions that I thought were interesting that I want to talk about with Preach, and then we'll just kind of go from there.
Lonely single men are on the rise due to higher dating standards. Oh my god. It was like a baiting
my
call
skin
or
looks so
something.
good.
But anyway, saw this and immediately looked it up
That's
because I
alright.
was like, is this real? Maybe this isn't real. Come to find out, or as we say in Wolof, fake on their wall. These articles were published literally like a day or two before. So turns out this is actually true, although as always
Trying to be
there's more
friends
to
with
the
men.
story. But this is all research from the Pew Research Center, I think a place that most people find trustworthy. And when I was looking at the research article,
Oops.
I didn't expect it to be as long as it was because it was honestly very broad strokes, but it was mostly talking about how, yeah, just statistically, you're just really worse off if you're unpartnered, especially if you are an unpartnered male. I'll link not just unpartnered people, but unpartnered straight men and why.
They're chopping up a lot to really emphasize the men part, when I do say that it actually says, like the Pew Research thing is just like, if you're unpartnered as an adult, yeah, it's not going to be as great for you because
Well, no, that's not. You were pretty adamant about the man part, and then you even said that this isn't an issue that women have, basically, and they don't even need men. So you're not even really being necessarily honest about that. It's not that much out of context.
You don't have anybody. Like, that's if you're lonely, like, humans need community and connection, but a lot of y'all only think that's romantic and sexual too.
I know, but you said that women don't need that and they could just deal with women. So,
but we'll talk about that in a second.
They are unpartnered and the effects it'll have on their health, mental, physical well-being, all of that. And how, and speaking in binaries, how for women, it's actually like healthier, apparently, or, you know, them not to have a husband or children weighing them down. I'm kidding.
See, also, they don't know me and they're not familiar with my content.
well, you made a joke, but you meant that joke, right? Like when I'll make a joke, like that's okay, but like you meant that, and you constantly kept asserting that, like, yeah, women are better off without men, which wasn't the case, right? People, men and women need each other in general. So there you go.
So clearly that
Just be like, yo, bro, just say this. Say, you know what? I heard that information and it made sense to me based on my life experience, and it just doesn't happen to be correct. I'd be like, okay, I respect that. You know what I mean? Maybe for her, that makes sense. But like for most people, it doesn't make sense. And sometimes it can be difficult to separate yourself from like the world, right? I can respect that.
obviously it's a joke. But anyway.
But like people use jokes all the time as like a way to reinforce. People use jokes all the time to like communicate particular messages, right? Well.
So if you even know, like, I don't know, maybe a bit about feminism, you've probably heard the saying, a woman without a man is like a fish without a bicycle. Fish don't need bicycles, just like women don't need men in this time.
Yeah, they also, the way they edited that, took out the part where I said, and I can remember it too, be going, when I first heard that, I was like, what? This is incredible. Oh my God, I don't need a guy. And then I talk about how that was actually not, anyway.
What?
Period.
Need a guy. Remember it too, yeah, they also,
a bicycle. Fish don't need bicycles, just like women don't need men.
Well, she agreed with that message. What is she talking about?
Don't need a guy. And then I talk about how that was actually not, anyway.
She went, wait, come on, man. You're nay-naying yourself.
Period, especially, and not that this is the first time it's ever happened, but time when we started realizing, oh, what do I really need a guy for besides if I like to have sex? And it's not to say that the dudes didn't deserve the kind of energy.
I stand by that,
because I'm gonna get to it.
I stand by that statement.
As I mentioned from the Pew Research, they were pointing out how men that are unpartnered, there's just diminishing of your quality of life, I guess, overall. And
economically
for women,
speaking,
it seems to be the opposite.
Yeah, you messed that one up because you tried to compare the fact that it's difficult as a man, as a person in general, economically when you don't have a partner. You tried to compare that to happiness levels in women. And so like that was not only disanalogous, but again, your research was out of context. And that was not good. Listen, we all do it. I've done it before. But it was clear to me that you had a narrative that you wanted to promote that was that women don't need men, and you didn't engage with the material in like a critical way. You kind of just like, oh, I think that this could help me drive my narrative home, even though it wasn't correct. And again, we all do it. We all do it. I've done it. Like, it's not intentional. Sometimes you just make an oopsie boopsie. It is what it is.
Contrast, women benefit far more from being alone. According to Professor Paul Dolan, a happiness expert and professor of behavioral science at the London School of Economics, the quote, healthiest and happiest population subgroup are women who never married or had children.
Obviously, this is funny. Maybe it's not. Not everybody has the same sense of humor. So I
stop it. You're not joking. You actually believe that. Why do you? I hate this. People make jokes. So everybody makes jokes all the time. It doesn't mean that the intention of your joke wasn't to actually communicate like something that you actually believe. And it's like it's sad when you just kind of. Just be like, oh no, I was just kidding. I can't be held accountable. It's like, why? Why don't you just like own it? Just be like, yeah, I shouldn't have made the joke. Oh, okay. Oh, the joke was, the joke actually wasn't that good. Or I believe what I was saying. It's not a joke. You believe that. That was what the beginning of your video was about.
I'll give them that. But I thought it was funny. I make myself laugh. Whatever. Anyway, okay. So this is where they're going to debunk it.
The article that she's quoting to support the idea that women are better off by themselves is by some scientist named Paul Dolan.
Okay.
And he reads this public available data and he comes to the conclusion, and I quote, If you're a man, you should probably get married. If you're a woman, don't bother. And when you hear
Ooh, gay marriage.
Sorry, y'all.
Oh, it sounds like she accidentally moved on to the next video. I've done that before.
It sounds like it rings true. So you assume it is. Let me tell you, I wish Homegirl would have just done another Google search because this guy's been debunked already.
So that quote, the number of dudes, maybe it's not that much, but there have been a few that have been commenting this on my video. It's funny to me because I'm like, you're getting at me for quoting something that I didn't look further into and just regurgitated. Fair?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, we've all done that. Unfortunate.
Play. Because it is my job.
Okay.
But y'all are literally just regurgitating the exact same thing this man said.
Okay. So, first of all, you're probably correct. Most people, okay. She's probably not wrong, right? It doesn't matter. There's probably a lot of people who it doesn't matter what the Abin Priest said. If it sounds like a decent counter argument, they'll be like, see, you were wrong. For sure. But it doesn't make them wrong. Right? So just because like her argument is that like some people who watch content are dumb. Which can be true. And I think we've all been there, right? And they don't critically engage with everything. You know, maybe you just don't have the time of day or whatever. Maybe you're young and you don't really care and you just have a narrative you want your favorite creator to push. But that doesn't make them wrong, right? Like, you know what I mean?
In my chat. I mean, you're giving me the engagement, so thank you, but...
Oh, no, this is rough from her.
This is what my gay ass gets for trying to help straight people. I'm kidding. See, I gotta say I'm kidding, because God forbid, fucking woke moralist.
It is kind of true, though. You do have to say you're... That's why I say it all the time, because, I got canceled for making, like, edgy jokes. I'm not going to say that, I understand why. On TikTok, and I try to make sure people understand that like I'm not kidding because I don't want to come from a place of hatred. And when I'm making jokes, though, I'm like literally kidding. Like if I make a silly joke about how women stink, I go, I'm just kidding because I'm being serious. Because then I'll follow it up with like an actual conversation about how women are like marginalized in some capacity. But like the thing is that your jokes were in defense of what you were saying. They weren't just like silly jokes playing on stereotypes. You actually meant what you were saying. And then you go, oh, it's a joke. I hate people who do. Or excuse me, I hate it when people do that. I don't hate people who do that. I just don't like that. It's a little dishonest,
All right.
So there's a Vox article that was great, and basically this Vox writer. Let me just make sure.
And not homegirl. I do not know you like that.
And she got an article.
And you are from Montreal. Don't call me homegirl.
Why are you talking?
Shout out to you, lady. And basically she goes on
hear what they have to say.
The fact that this guy, when he was,
it's like it's giving homegirl. It's giving black equivalent of.
I find it interesting that she's constantly talking over this part that apparently debunks her. Why are you so afraid of this?
Sweetie. It's just, I also have never felt, or not never felt, but it's also been very interesting to note how guys will become contortionists to avoid admitting that they think they're smarter than women.
What?
Or that they think they're smarter than certain people. Because if this wasn't...
Listen, I've talked to Abba. I've seen some of the conversations he's in. I don't think Abba thinks he's smarter than women. I've never gotten that. Abba obviously hates fat women. All right? On the record. Fuck you, Abba. Anyway, sorry, it was a joke. I don't think that that's true. I don't think that they just hate. I don't think that they just hate. You're doing the whole. It's so funny that she brought the point up in her other video. First of all, this girl is smart. She's not unintelligent in any capacity. Frankly, there's just some things that she got that was wrong, and we've all been there. But it's interesting that she talked about how like not everybody's a monolith, and now you're trying to make it seem like Abin Preacher are a monolith by saying like, oh, men will do the worst to prove that women are stupid. But like aren't you doing the same thing that you said you shouldn't be done in the last video?
About seeming smarter than, you would have moved away from the debunking, and it wouldn't be the next 7 minutes of the video, which is what it is. I promise y'all, I'm not lying.
Okay, who cares?
Statistics did so incorrectly, and he had to retract afterwards what he'd said in his book because he admits that he quoted this stuff incorrectly.
But I'm keeping this because I want y'all to hear it.
Myself, and you hear these studies, and we're like, women are happy about it. It's not true. It's not true. It's not true. Gray Kimbrough, he was an economist at the American University of Public Affairs who used the survey data that this Paul Dolan used. And basically what this guy realized is that I'm no happiness expert and don't have strong ideological feelings about whether or not everyone should be getting married or not. But I have done a ton of research with the American Time Use Survey, which he's used to base the statement on, and the claims felt weird to me. First of all, there's a statement that when married woman's spouse is not in the room, she's fucking miserable.
What?
I know that this information isn't included in it, so I reached out to him. He has since retracted this statement and will correct it in his book. The citation in the second paragraph crucially does not say that there are no benefits to women marrying, only that there are not as large as benefits to men. Meaning, And when I talk
Interesting.
about this topic, the way that men and women have to bridge this gap because we only have each other.
Do we only have each other?
Women are thriving by themselves. I'm like,
Yes, generally speaking. I understand gay people exist, but the reality is that you can't listen. If you can't choose to be gay, you can't choose to be straight. So if you have the mental disorder of being a straight person, you're gonna have to learn to deal with men or women depending on who you are, right? So like, yes, emphatically yes. Okay.
like, no, you're not. This is just made up bullshit. Like, stop saying this stuff because you're going off faulty information. And
it's interesting that like apparently men benefit from marriage more than women do. Oh, I shouldn't have used those things. Oh, fuck. I guess I'd look into that more later because I wonder what that means. I'm just curious about what that is. But okay.
You're building your whole fucking life.
Somebody also commented that exact thing. It's
What?
sad. Something along the lines of, they basically paraphrased him that, oh, it's sad that you're basing your whole personality off of a false statistic. And I'm like, it's sad that you're one of the real ones commented, it's sad that you're basing all your comments on a false video.
But isn't you're the video the false video? What do you mean? It's funny. It's kind of true, no?
This is why I said they tried to embarrass me, but they embarrassed themselves.
Okay.
Because also, people are like, they're not trying to embarrass you. I don't know them from Adam. And if this is the stuff that they do based off their other clickbaity titles, yes, they are. Because they're saying, Khadija didn't do a research, fake news, blah, blah, blah. Look at these video essayists, and you'll hear a comment about it in a minute. They just read one book and cite one thing, and it's like, okay. And the reason that I know so much is because I've watched this video, because I tried to take what he said to heart and really take it on the chin and be like, okay, what
It sounds like you did take it to heart a little bit.
is my portion and what belongs to them?
Okay.
There was a lot that belonged to them, but anyway.
I'm looking forward to that. Let's see what we got.
You're going into these relationships thinking like, oh, shit's gonna be sweet on the other side when it's not. And you're doing it based off information that's untrue. People are selling you this stuff because it appeals to you, right? I can understand it. Someone tells you, you don't need men. You can live forever by yourself. You want to listen to that person.
You could.
Empowering. The same way red pill people say a bunch of that stuff to these young men.
True.
It's empowering to them.
He's not wrong about that, but it's also like...
What? He's not wrong about that.
Who said it is empowering to be like, you don't need men, fuck them?
How do I engage with what she just said?
Who said it is empowering to be like, you don't need men, fuck them?
You did! You said men deserved getting trashed on, and honestly, some of it comes from, like, yeah, in the back in the day, it was always like, oh, women need men, you need us, and then when women were like, you know what, because women, like, individuals don't need individuals, right? Like, so a woman doesn't need to be with a man. Of course, my mother doesn't need no man. Women in general do, just like men in general need women, but individuals don't. That's where it comes from. It's an empowering statement. You know that. You're what? What do you mean? Well, you just disagree with everything. You're just intentionally disagreeing with everything. This is not good. This is not good. What are you doing, girl? Okay. Is this the first time she's ever gotten called out? Because if this is one of the first times she's ever gotten called out, I can understand struggling to kind of deal with the pressure because it feels like the world's caving in on you. So I get it. I don't want to be mean to this person. But come on, girl. Come on. Come on. Come on.
Y'all have a very stereotypical depiction of what feminism is, and it's giving that you don't read Black feminist. Black queer feminists. Y'all quote Audre Lorde, Master's Tools, but I don't...
Listen. Why would I need to read about Black feminists to get feminism down? It's almost like, first of all, we know that feminist spaces are racist, right? We know that, like, traditionally in general, they focus more on white women than, like, people of color. And that's a whole conversation about intersectionality. But, like, the general aspect of feminism, like, why would I need to, what do you mean? That's part of it. It's the independence aspect. Like, you just... Like, if the message isn't as complicated, it's just that women want to be treated equally with respect. It's not as complex as you're trying to make it seem like. It just seems like you're being a little bit of a sussy baka here to try to deflect criticism at this point.
I don't think y'all have read her.
I haven't.
I don't think y'all are taking pictures of all of us.
Also, like, it's cool to read, and I think it's a great way to, like, learn stuff. But if your whole argument is like, oh, well, you didn't read a book that takes you 6 hours to read, like, you can't be right. Shut up. All right, you should be able to articulate a perspective. And actually, instead of, like, telling us that we all have to read a fucking book. I mean, come on though. But like, we know that that's part of it. That's part of like that's the cope that women will say. We don't need no man, right? Men have the same cope, except men weren't like oppressed for being men historically. At least definitely not in the same in the way as women have, right? But you get what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying here.
But I don't think y'all have read bell hooks, because if you did, you wouldn't. If especially a person that says that they subscribe to that brand of feminism, that reads those types of women, they're not going to sit here and say fuck men. White feminists and second wave feminism, that was their mistake. That's where they messed up. And that's why we have gender wars.
You said these things. What are you talking about? What's happening? I'm getting my fucking shit pushed. Okay.
Had gender wars, have them now.
Okay. Your video kind of contributed to that, but okay.
Meanwhile, black women were, tired and exhausted, but we were also like, y'all want to say fuck your men. We're not doing that. And look what we got as a result.
Yeah, you.
Thank you.
What are you talking about?
I also don't think they realized that I was queer, because there was a lot of focus on that.
Well, the fact that you are queer actually hurts your argument, because you keep talking about men. This is the thing. This is where I think all of it comes from. It seems like you're not really into relationships with men, which is no problem. And so when you hear information that says that women don't need men, you immediately go like, "Oh, see, that's how I feel." And that must, so since I feel that way because you don't need a man because you date women, you go, it must be true. That's the problem. You over-identified with it. You had a feeling about the world because you don't need a man in the same way a gay guy doesn't need a woman, and you decided to take that and you ran with it and you were wrong because you utilized too much of your life experience in this situation, which is fine. That shit happens.
On straight couples, and that's their perspective, but yeah.
Fuck these bitches. You just get this money. You won't get it. Like that's side. This is the other side of the delusion, where it's just like we don't need others. We don't need these. It's not true.
It's wild. I agree.
Trying to be friends with men.
You did push it a little bit, girl.
The only difference is women do slightly worse. So why are you celebrating?
Did he mean slightly better?
What?
Do worse off. Need others. We don't need these. It's not true.
It's wild.
Every statistical number shows that you're gonna do worse off if you're by yourself. Sure. The only difference is women do slightly worse. So why?
Oh, I guess men do slightly worse if they're by themselves. I probably was a misspeak. Okay.
Why are you celebrating?
Did he mean slightly better? I think he meant slightly better.
Probably.
Look at me reading him in good faith.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I think he deserves the good faith.
This is akin to two people fucking drowning and one looking at the other and be like, well, you're drowning faster. Bitch, you all going.
Well, I'm taller, so you know what I mean? So you're doing worse off. Well, I'm taller, so you're drowning faster, right?
Die. Why are you concerned about the fact that he's drowning a little bit faster?
I like what Preach has on. Preach is the one on the left with that jacket. I like that jacket.
Listen, you need to pause the video if you want to do commentary, okay? I need to hear everything. You gotta do it. Even if you end up pausing it, it's way too long.
Women are wrong or men are wrong or whatever the fuck it is. Yo, niggas, we only got each other.
Stop it.
Well, men are not gonna change. Tough. They're the only men you have. You gotta go to a different planet. I ain't never fucking. You getting some alien dick I don't know about?
Listen, I've been saying this though. Once we really master VR porn, we won't need women anymore, dude. Okay, we don't need those women anymore, dude. All right. Once they add those like things where you can feel, there's something where you could like feel it in the air. We're not gonna need those women. All right, there'll come a day. All right, hook my brain up to a computer. All right, we'll do like Black Mirror, and I'll just fuck my best friend in the computer, and we'll pretend it's not weird. Okay.
Women are gonna be like, fuck. Where are you gonna get your ladies? Like, do you guys not realize there's only these two genders?
Oh my.
75. Whoa. What you get? What I'm trying to say? There's only these two sexes, right?
I actually thought that was funny. Like,
it was a joke, yeah.
But, it's also the.
I believe he meant. Well, he was being funny, but he was. He's talking about gender. There's really only like. I mean, listen. You know, you got your non-binaries, but generally speaking, like, yeah, there's only men and women, right? Like, we understand the existence of some of these weirdos. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, obviously, they're just fucking
tone of it. Like, men are always so happy to call women emotional, say we talk too much about our feelings, whatever, but then they don't ever want to consider that they are acting from an emotional place too. It just looks different.
Sure, I agree with that. She's not wrong about that. I think that men tend to express their emotions in like angrier, and I don't think that that's right. And yeah, for sure. And then we'll be like, oh, we see men aren't emotional. It's like, no, we are. We just tend to express it in anger, which is not a good emotion. You know, you need to be a little bit more controlled and reserved, and we need to start considering that. Oh fuck, we need to start considering that an emotion. I should have cleared more. It's just like really bad.
And just because you can't articulate what the emotions are doesn't mean you're not having them.
Well, it doesn't. Okay, so like the only reason I don't like that is because I've heard her the entire time talk about how men are not emotionally intelligent, and it's not that men can't articulate it. It's just that we don't classify it as it because we don't realize it because we're stupid sometimes, right? No, but like she's been like weirdly like disparaging of men in some weird instances where she'll be like, "Oh, men aren't emotionally intelligent. They don't do this." You know what I mean? In a similar way where men will be like, "Oh, women aren't intelligent," and in a different capacity. Fuck, we're gonna wipe. Fuck me in the ass. Yeah, way too much fucking. Yeah. Bad positioning.
But because the vibe that I'm getting from this is like, well, what are you gonna do? You're gonna go whatever? We only have each other stupid, so like, why don't y'all stop acting dumb? And I just hate this debate, broy. I'm smarter than you, and I just wish everyone would just get it. Y'all are dumb. If you all just came together, it'd be what? That's not how you talk to people. If I spent this whole video telling y'all that, well, these Abby and Peach are stupid. They're dumb. They don't have any opinions that really matter. Blah, blah.
Well, they're not calling you dumb, though.
If I spent the whole video saying that stuff, they're not saying that about me, but I'm just saying,
like... So what are you talking about?
Talking about extreme categories of people.
Sure.
The red pill folks and the women that say, fuck men, we don't need them, right? The divestors, maybe, or something like that. And I agree with a lot of the stuff that he's saying. But more flies with honey than vinegar. But men don't have to think about that because you don't have to think about changing your voice or your mannerisms in a certain way to make sure that people take you more seriously.
That's probably true. Sure. I guess that's true. That doesn't mean that there are other... I don't know. I just know that from like my personal experience, I do have to interact with a little differently with the world and with women because they're afraid of me sometimes. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'4". You know, I'm fucking fat as hell. I'm a big dude. I can be very intimidating. I don't want to make people uncomfortable. There's times where I'll cross the sidewalk just so that women don't feel uncomfortable because of like, you know, I'm in like their proximity in some capacity. Like, oh, I know exactly what's going on. Holy fuck. I'm going to die. We're going to wipe again.
Maybe you do. And maybe that's a conversation we can have. Lord. Wise mind. Wise mind. Somebody had the wise mind skill set. Hey, DBT, what's up? And it's also so straight because you're the only two each other has. Girl, I have options, okay? These straight girls do not. I have options. Like I said, I'm attracted to men to an extent, but it takes a lot more work for me to maintain consistent attraction with men than it does for women. And
well, yeah, because you seem to be like more like woman leaning, you know?
Well, pretty much everybody else, honestly. Anyway. Ab is upfront about having emotions. He was not in this video, but we'll get to it.
Thank you.
Okay.
We only have each other. So when I hear this narrative constantly being perpetuated, I'm like, first off, it's mostly like young delusional women who are saying this stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Again, calling people delusional. This is like the second time he said it. I get it. There's a frustration. You just want people to get along, but the way you're acting is also.
When you say that men, that like if you're say that you don't need men or you don't need women, you're delusional. Like it's a cope. You're coping super hard. So like they're not wrong about that at all.
Not going to, and the platform that y'all have and the way y'all post and stuff like that. At least what I've seen, it doesn't seem like you're going to create a space that's going to be conducive to these conversations that bridge this gap that you're talking about.
I disagree. I mean, I don't know what to say. Like, I disagree with that. I just like, listen, like nobody's perfect, right? We all make mistakes. We all do our thing. But I don't think that you could fairly assert that Abba and Preach, like they do have the conversation. Everybody gets stuff or wrong, or like we all think each other gets something wrong. You know what I mean? We have differences in opinion, but like they're in the manosphere in some capacity and they're talking about some issues, right? You know, they're trying their best. I'd say that they're better than anybody else in that sphere that is trying to like have conversations about shit, right? So,
especially when you're calling people delusional.
Well, you are delusional.
Yes, it's a bit delusional. Yes, we get it, but like,
but they're just calling you like you're like, yeah, it is delusional. Then why are you offended that they're saying it? What do you mean? They're correct. It's okay to call stuff out like assertively. You know what I mean? It's okay. This was so hard. Holy fuck.
Why are you yelling at people about being delusional? Damn.
Because you're being delusional. I don't understand.
Is it actually just like stupid to be like nice? Like I'm genuinely confused. If it's anyway, okay.
Okay, you're taking a little too much offense to this.
Compassion is for losers, y'all.
Listen, I agree that compassion is great, and it's usually associated with some level of femininity. You don't have to be compassionate about everything, right? Like sometimes it's okay to be assertive and blunt. Like you don't always have to, be that compassionate. Like you're being delusional. Like it's okay. Take it. Be a little. And this isn't meant to be offensive. Be a little stronger. Take it on the chin. It's a delusional take that you agree with, but now you just don't like that they're being kind of mean to you.
Why do you think remarriage always happens in the latter years?
Citation needed.
How many times do old people get remarried?
Citation needed.
All the time. Because they understand what it's like to grow old.
That dying alone shit is fucked up. And I'm not even like...
Wow! Yes!
Access sports and play.
Bro, get YouTube Premium with this shit. Holy fuck. I don't know if that's true. I'm gonna look up that there's remarriages later on in life. She's really watching. I have YouTube Premium to not watch these ads. And she's just,
It's not being old, just there. Alone in your apartment, you just, yo, it's fucked up. Yeah. You could deny it and be like, no, I'm good, until the shit gets lonely. Everybody, without...
I should have known they were Canadian by the way he said
about, I'm good alone. That was cis, and it's homosexual, and I was a woman. Eventually, they're like, yeah, but it'd be nice.
Maybe he's not Canadian.
Eventually, they're like, yeah, but it'd be nice. But I'm good. You repeat that shit so much that I'm really starting to think, are you trying to convince yourself? Because I heard you the first 54 times that you said it. But now you're like, I want this, I'm good. Ah, that's why I'm good. I'm really good. I'm good. And then the loneliness comes, it sucks. It sucks.
Okay.
Sucks for men too, by the way.
I don't know about you guys, but wallets have always been an issue for me.
Not this ad. Okay, anyway, before we continue, yeah, it does suck. Loneliness sucks. And if you had watched my whole video, because I don't know if Preach did, like, I'm assuming
Abbott probably did. Preach doesn't usually watch the whole thing, but yeah.
Brings it to him, and then he
like that's usually like their dynamic. That seems to be what it is.
That works. Or he just showed him the clips. So that's also not great because he's working with half the information of the video. If that's the case. I don't know if he's actually watched the whole thing, but...
Okay, but they don't seem to be wrong so far, so it's okay.
Either way, if you had watched it, if your fans had watched it, they would have seen that I talk about community. Like, it's like they missed...
You mentioned the community, and I remember I made a point about how, like, I didn't like... You mentioned community, but you kept harping on this fact that, like, women don't need men over and over and over again. And so, like, you're not being, like, active, like, correctly expressive about, like, what you were saying and, like, how you actually felt about it. You were saying like, yeah, people need community, but then you were saying that women don't need men. Like, yeah, your focus is more on that men are lonely and women like aren't. So yeah, okay.
They weren't there the full 2 weeks when that video came out, and all the girls were pissed at me. I don't think they were there.
Why were they pissed
at you?
I don't think
they were there. They weren't.
Oh, so you got called out by more than just.
Oh God, because if they were, this video wouldn't exist. Like their video, it could have been a 5-minute video.
Okay.
But it's 2 parts, apparently.
Yeah, but you're not even admitting that you were wrong in your video. You're doubling down on like almost everything. Like, what do you mean? My God, dude.
Anyway, we're gonna skip this because I don't need a wallet.
What?
Unless y'all do.
Maybe you don't know that. This is fucking.
But for real, I really do.
So
like
stupid.
Jacket.
This is game. I mean.
Guys, use a link in the description.
Here's the other thing as well. When I told my friend about this, I had my friend watch it with me just because I was like,
boring.
I need support. I don't know how I'm gonna react. And he was like, are they afraid of being alone? What the hell? What's wrong with being alone? Like, you don't.
Are they afraid of being alone? No, they're the advocates for like young men. Are they afraid of being alone? I mean, I guess we all are. Like, I'm not worried about it right now because I'm with my wife, but maybe they are. Like, what? How is this an insult? Aren't you criticizing them for having an emotion that they're being expressed about? Like, it's bad to be alone, and you're like, oh, they're afraid to be alone. Are you projecting? Isn't this the aspect of toxic masculinity we're talking about, where men are discouraged from talking about their feelings? Are you not engaging in that right now?
You have to have a romantic partner to be happy and to also have community. I know people that are older that have community. That, yes, for some people they have a partner, but it's also...
Most people are going to need a partner in order to be happy. I'm just letting you know. Some people are outliers. How is there not a boss going on? Come on, bro. Fuck. But, like, it's a good thing to find one.
Extended outside of that. Culturally, that's also just a thing for a lot of people, too. So, like, it doesn't really make sense to say that, like, if you don't have a partner, you're going to be lonely. And then when you get to the end of your life, you're going to be sad because all your friends are going to leave you because they're going to be like, I have a kid and family now, so fuck you. There's an element of that, I think, especially with like maybe straight folks. There's an element of that, but even the straight friends that I have that have been in serious relationships or are in relationships, it's a factor of their life, but it's not their sole purpose and priority.
Okay, cool.
For some of y'all, a romantic relationship, having a partner is it. That's the goal. And that is cute for you, but that's not, for a lot of us, we want different things, or we want more than that.
It's very fulfilling to be in a romantic relationship. And it's a good thing that it's a good thing that you should try to have. Like, it's not that deep, but yeah. Okay.
And that should also be okay. I really dislike this style of video.
Why?
Because it operates under the guise of trying to have a conversation, but really the intentions are not about having an actual conversation.
Based on what? Why do you think that?
Because also part of having a conversation is when you're listening to people, humoring them and believing that what they're telling, not humoring them, but believing that what they're telling you is their truth. And yeah, I don't know. This is...
below and get yourself one too. Yeah. And it's important because, you know, sometimes these video essays on YouTube do like these video think pieces that make it seem like everything's so well researched and thought out. And like, it's not. A lot of these people are operating on faulty information. They read a single book and they're like, I understand feminism.
I got the truth.
I just don't buy it. And I'm not saying this woman's intention lies. Not that. It's that oftentimes, even I have this bias, I imagine, is that when...
Okay, he's going to talk about the bias in a second, but...
Yeah, it's true. He's not wrong.
This is where, in the video where I actually was like... This is when I did the West African auntie.
Okay.
Because in that video, I forgot that I even did this. This is the funniest part. If somebody wants to find that video and link the document that I put, I'm pretty sure in that document there's minimum 8 books. Minimum.
Okay.
There are TV shows.
You just linked books that were like generally about like feminist theory and shit, and then you linked incorrect information that didn't support your narrative. So, or that like you thought it supported your narrative, but they didn't.
That talk about gender and stuff in a way that is not the typical. Some of it's a typical how these guys would probably say girls want men to talk about feelings, but some of it is not. I mean, I had put Mike Tyson's podcast and Man Enough in there because I was like, these are men that are talking about their experiences, and I think Mike Tyson's a guy that dudes respect, and he was telling Boosie to chill out on Lil Nas X. So
Okay, cool.
I thought that was a good resource for men.
So how is that relevant to the concept? Because I watched part of the video and I agree with like a lot of it or some of it, but like the whole narrative that women don't need men, like that's the issue. That's the contestment here. Like, then you got that part wrong, and that's what they're primarily taking issue with more than anything else.
To have, but I guess I only read one book about it.
Okay.
This is where I get petty, and this is where I get petty.
You've been petty the whole time, girl. I don't know.
This is where I get more upset because I care a lot about this shit.
Yeah.
When I was in university, when I dropped out of sociology, because I did drop out, and I tell y'all that all the time. Before I dropped out, one of my professors in the end of one of my papers was like, I don't really recommend people to go to grad school. I don't know how you feel about it, but you should really consider going to grad school for gender studies, because those were my favorite classes. Those are the ones that I could really sink my teeth in and just talk.
What degree? I mean, like, I would generally recommend not doing that, guys, only because I don't think that there's money. There's not like a whole lot of the old job available in gender studies. Just gonna be real with you. But okay.
About the way we relate to each other and what the hell is going on, along with class and race, yes. But I don't just talk about feminism to hear myself talk.
Okay.
There are people online that do, and I understand that if you don't know me, you don't trust me, so you think that I'm one of those people.
Okay.
But if you watched 7 minutes more of the video, even 7 minutes more in the video, you would have known that that wasn't the case. So I'm starting to think that neither one of them watched this video in its entirety. If they did, I don't know what video they were watching. Maybe they were.
I don't know, man. So far, they're spot on. Okay. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Maybe it was like a fucking decoherence or something. Schrodinger's cat. Maybe there was a 2 split realities, and all of a sudden they were in the reality where they watched a different version of my video where I said men are garbage and we need to say fuck them and huzzah, because I don't know what video they were watching, but it wasn't mine. And just because you say that people through video essays, especially, apparently, I don't really even call myself that. I just say it because other people do. I just say I talk shit into a camera.
Wait, what? You just wait, hold on. What was that line?
Video essays. Just because you say that people through video essays, especially, apparently, I don't really even call myself that. I just say it because other people do.
I don't call myself that. I just say it because other people do. Okay. And so you call yourself that. All right.
I just say I talk shit into a camera every week.
Okay.
But if you're going to say that we talk just to hear ourselves talk, or we just read one book and think we know everything, you need to actually like
open the description tab and sorry, that was sounding shady. I'm not trying to be, but like legit,
no,
open the description tab and if you had done one extra click, you would have seen how many resources I'd put in there for men and women to look at. That was work that I did, compiling all of that, because I actually care about men and women bridging this gap. I don't just talk about it.
Sure. Okay.
When you have information that confirms the truth that's convenient to you or aligns with your worldview, you just run with it.
Confirmation bias, and also a lot of naive realism.
That's what you did though, because your stat was wrong about how women don't need men and whatnot. So,
which is essentially just you think that people think the world perceive the world the same way that you do.
Okay.
And also, video essayists don't even like video essayists. Come on, y'all.
Just be careful. Whether it's us, whether it's
her. I guess I can shamelessly. My sister messaged me. We're selling merch. If you want to get the merch, get it. This feels gross, but whatever.
Why does it feel gross?
I guess when they go low, I go lower. If you want to get some merch from Flaunt, some pins.
Why does it feel? Plug your merch. Who cares? If I had merch, I'd be plugging it too.
And totes. Get the pins and totes. Go to letsflaunt.com. Check out the Instagram. Okay. Cool. Thank you for doing capitalism with us. It actually does help support the channel because I really did invest a lot in that. So, please. It really does.
Oh, that's why she thinks it's like stupid and gross, because she likes to be anti-capitalist. Okay. I mean, listen, I think that there are things to improve, but sure. Okay.
Support the channel.
I'm not really anti-capitalist.
So that I can make these episodes and do more research. Side note, I also have been doing all this research and stuff myself and editing and everything myself. I've downsized a lot.
That's
because good. I was trying to be that person that was like, I'm gonna pay everyone to do all the great things, and yeah, it's really
costs more than you think, right? Yeah, I feel that.
Expensive. So the merch helps a lot, actually, and the shit is very adorable.
Raise money for the cause, comrades.
Okay. Y'all know I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Like, I'm not proud of it, but like, it's the holidays. Get stuff for your family and friends. Letsflaunt.com. Share it if you will. Put it in the chat. This is so gross.
This part probably is the most annoying part of the video for me. Like the deflection, like, you know, the lack of accountability is one thing, but the pretending to like be like, oh, it's so cringe that I'm asking for you to buy stuff, and then like while plugging your merch is like, oh my god, just like own your shit, you know.
Gross. Okay. Oh god.
Okay.
Or with us, anybody else on YouTube, understand just because they say this and they cite something, you have to look beyond the citation and be like, well, where did the study actually come from?
What did they actually say?
Did they read the study properly? Your main point, which is that women are better off not getting married, is just untrue. Your life expectancy drops, the amount of money that you make drops, your happiness levels drop according.
Be careful of researched opinions. Like, that's how it sounds. So that sentence.
Yeah, be skeptical of everything you hear. Like, that's what they're saying, because you apparently extrapolated the data incorrectly.
Your main point is not true. This is why I said they tried to embarrass me and they embarrassed themselves.
Why?
Because that wasn't the point of my video. The video isn't even titled "Men Are Lonely, Fuck Them."
Who cares? It was a big portion of your video is trying to talk about how like men need women and women don't need men. So like, okay.
It's titled "The Menses Are Lonely. Should We Care?" ? Because YouTube likes clickbait, and YouTube, when you have a thumbnail, will put your thumbnail with 7 other ones and show you, hey, would you click your thumbnail if it was that? If that's not the case, YouTubers make 3 to 4 thumbnails, 3 to 4 different thumbnails per video, and will switch them out because packaging is important, which is why.
Why?
I talked about it so much at the beginning.
That sounds like a terrible idea. Why would you? I mean, listen, no offense, but like if you had a downsize,
trying to be friends with men
and start doing all your work yourself, I don't think that you should necessarily be giving advice. I mean, you're a bigger channel than I ever was. So I'm just saying that seems weird. If anything, consistency makes more sense. Put your video up with one thumbnail and then keep it there and keep it consistent, so that people can like go to that video. You know, they might see it multiple times in their feed. That's a weird thing. Why would you do that?
And also why I always am honest with y'all at the beginning of the video when I'm like, all right, the title is this, but we're going to really break it down. Because I know that that's the game. Again,
okay.
I'm not afraid to be honest about the fact that that's the game. And I can admit it. Because I want to I have a sincere desire for this honest conversation.
Sincere desire, baby. Yeah. Pee pee poo poo.
So I'm trying to lead with honesty. Imagine. Y'all, if more of us just led with honesty. That wasn't a dig at them. That was, well, kind of is anyway.
Okay.
So
ironic.
Let me say right now, the Menses Are Lonely video, Should We Care, is not about, and somebody cut this out and put it somewhere. This video is not about women being better off without men and fuck them.
I'm pretty sure at the beginning, didn't Abba say like, go watch the full video, it made some good points?
Edited it down. Oh. But to be fair to the woman who created this video,
She was very thoughtful about a lot of the stuff that she said, and there were some good points that she made. And so if you want, you can go check out her video and see which parts you guys agree with or don't agree with. Don't let us inform you. So the link is below, so you can go.
So he even said that you had some good points in your video. So he's not even trying to really make it seem like that's the only part of your video, right? I mean, like, what do you mean?
And if that's what you got from it, you didn't watch the video. And if your whole point, ooh, my light went out. If the whole point of your argument is that we need to be doing more research and doing a bit more Googles, then your argument doesn't have legs anymore.
Why?
All right, let me get my charger.
Okay.
Oh, I sincerely hope they didn't base both parts of their video off of this assumption, because if they did, well, it's more engagement for me, so thanks, I guess. Anyway. All right.
All the metrics that we have out
See,
there,
we're still on this
that these
subject, and it's 10 minutes. And that part of the video was maybe 30 seconds. Maybe.
Unfortunately, the way the world works,
That was a good first portion of your video.
you have to be two.
Yep.
Groceries, having a roof over your head, kids, raising kids, it's better with two motherfuckers. It's just like that. But hey,
Also, friends sound great.
Do you like? You know what's interesting that I've noticed from Ab and Prish more now, and I don't know. I haven't. Maybe it's I never watched their content like enough, but they've been like really on this kick of like being pretty like non-binary and trans affirming or whatever, because they're like two people, and before they were like, hey, you want to identify whatever you want, whatever. Like I respect it. It's pretty cool. You know, that's a difficult message to relate to like the manosphere people. You know. And they're doing it slowly, so you gotta respect that, bro.
Young. As you get older, people either have kids, they have their own families, they move out of state to go live with other people. It's like this idea, like you're gonna always hold your friend group. And you
I think they made out of province.
Everything's gonna be great. Not nearly as true as you get older in age. Those relationships start to fade.
shit change.
Absolutely.
I'm friends with people in their 40s. Like, what are y'all saying?
What's happening right now? Where's the echo coming from?
Ain't no business. That person was free to help you out when that person was free to help you out.
I think I'm imagining the friends
What happened? How did this get so much worse?
that I have that are older than 35, that have happy lives, that aren't married. I think I'm imagining those people. Like, just as their reality could be true.
Bro, like this is you're being so like non-nuanced. Like there are going to be people that are happier alone. You made the claim originally that women didn't need men, but men needed women, basically. That's not the case. Some people don't need them, but like ultimately, generally speaking, people do need those relationships. That's the whole point.
True. That maybe they do have a lot of friends that get married as they get older, move out of state, move on, and they only care about that. That's fine. But that speaks to what your friend group and your group of people prioritize. Everybody's different.
Yeah, but we're not. But like when we talk in its general sense, we have to generalize to an extent. They're just saying you made it a general claim that people don't need relationship, that women don't need men. That's basically it. And they're countering your general claim that was non-nuanced. Yeah, she lives in like a tunnel now.
Yeah, relationships are important, sure, but we prioritize each other. We prioritize that kind of intimacy in relationships. Everybody's different.
There it is.
If I can humor your reality and you can't humor mine, then what are we even doing here?
That's not what they're.
You're just talking at me about how everything that I think, feel, and say is wrong, even if I will have information and research to back it up.
It's funny that you're like, they're on the same point for 10 minutes, and now you're saying everything I said was wrong, but you just admitted that they were on the same point, so you can't really make that claim.
Whew, girl.
Okay. Continue. Press play.
Is there an echo?
No, press play. It's gone now. Press play. Okay.
And why do you play? Oh, all my fucking friends.
Anyway.
How many times do you hear girls complain? Oh, all my fucking friends are getting married. Yep.
True. Yep. True. Oh my goodness. This is just a personal thing, but my wife, all my friends my age are married, so we got married. All my friends my age have babies, so now we're trying to have a baby. I want to have babies with my wife. It's true. All my friends my age are in baby classes, and they have friends. You know what I mean? Yeah.
How many times do they do that? And why do they complain about that?
Because they ain't got nobody to chill. They ain't got nobody to be around. You got
Audio's terrible.
to feel very fucking lonely.
You know what's always funny? Those women who are like, I could do bad on myself, I could do bad on myself, then they find a man, what they like.
I mean,
I don't even know what jokes are making because I can't hear it.
and then I was like you back then, and I hear my sisters, I hear my sister, I can do this, but when you find the love of your life, it's just so late, you go back home.
What is happening right now?
You just go back home and he's there and he ain't
Yeah, that lasted a long time.
Bro, get YouTube Premium, motherfucker.
Almost unnecessarily long, wouldn't you say?
Sure.
Like, preach, what? I'm kidding. I don't know him like that. I can't be calling like that. Listen. Yeah.
I'm listening.
But y'all want to bridge the gap? But you want to make fun of every ex-girlfriend you've ever had?
Yeah, I think that the joke was understandable and okay. And you also apparently want to bridge the gap, and you make jokes about guys too, right? And you said that your whole first bit was a joke. I don't understand. You can make jokes as long as they're like respectful. That just seemed like a silly joke. I don't think anybody's really taking that like weirdly or personally. But you called actual prescriptions that men don't need, that need women and women don't need men, and you called those actual things like a joke. It was weird.
But y'all care about bridging the gap, huh?
Yeah.
I'm just asking questions.
Okay, cool.
I'm just asking questions to see if your talk matches your actions.
Okay.
Just asking questions.
Cool.
We don't gotta watch that again.
This is like fucking preposterous.
You find that special someone, and then but before you're like, nah, I'm a bad bitch. I'm a bad bitch. I'm a bad bitch. I'm a bad bitch.
Are y'all only talking about Instagram models? What's going on?
Maybe. Well, it sounded like they were specifically referring to the women who say they don't need men. So, like, he's not even saying all women. That's, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong there. So you can't even say that, like, he's necessarily, like, doing that. But, okay.
And most of us don't like Jay-Z. What?
Okay.
Like, who?
Okay.
Jay who?
Jay Zizzle.
Please. He's only there because Blue Ivy allows him to be. Okay.
Okay.
Jay-Z and Beyonce are married, so single ladies. Like, that means I'm kidding. But for real, also, that's just marketing.
What?
It's just marketing.
What's that?
And
what?
Anyone?
What?
Like, it's just a fun song. What are y'all saying? What are y'all saying?
What the fuck are you saying? What's happening right now?
This is okay. You know what?
With Jay-Z,
There are all these dating apps coming out as well, and with
Donna, my girl in the chat. So you keep talking about how, like, if you look at studies, marriage is declining and people are finding companionship in other relationships. Okay, that's not what we're talking about here. We're not saying that people are looking outside of relationships for, well, outside of like traditional relationships for some kind of a relationship or companionship. She didn't make that claim, Donna. She made the claim that men need women and women don't need men. You're not correct. You gotta open your third eye. Okay, you gotta keep this in mind. It's not the same thing. She's having a uninformed take here about the difference between men and women when it comes to their relationships. All right, that's the point.
dating apps, it's just numbers and screens, just tons and tons and tons.
Said Jay-Z like he meant something.
It's kind of like a cyber dating buffet. You just click through left, right. People almost stop being people and are just the pictures and the brief bit that you might gather from them.
Why is her?
Why did they pick
How is the video getting lower and lower?
that clip?
With ourselves about how our feelings are hurt. That a lot of the dudes we know, it's not just men you date, dads,
Fuck, I didn't mean to do that.
brothers, uncles, cousins, best friends, gay or straight, queer, whatever. So if you're socialized as a boy, that socialization ends up having a lot more to do with how in control can you be, how dominant can you be, how much of a quote man can you be, than how are you as a person, how do you feel, who are you discovering yourself to be, how do you choose to express yourself, let's talk.
You know, it's always interesting the way people try to define the male experience.
So they're gonna.
I can't hear what the fuck is going on. I don't know what they're.
That lasted a long time. Almost but y'all can.
and then you're
Jay who? But for real, what are y'all saying?
It's just numbers and screens, just tons and tons and tons.
Said Jay-Z like he meant something.
It's kind of like a cyber dating buffet. You just click through left, right. People almost stop being people and are just the pictures and the brief bit that you might gather from them.
Okay.
Why did they pick that clip?
With ourselves about how our feelings are hurt. That a
Okay.
lot of the dudes we know, it's not just men you date, dads, brothers, uncles, cousins, best friends, gay or straight, queer, whatever. If you're socialized as a boy, that socialization ends up having a lot more to do with how in control can you be, how dominant can you be, how much of a quote man can you be, than how are you as a person, how do you feel, who are you discovering yourself to be? How do you choose to express yourself? Let's talk.
I'm gonna lose.
You know, it's always interesting the way people try to define the male experience.
So they're going to make a good point here in a second, but before that,
So let them
just
make
look
it.
at the reaction they had when I even brought up the idea of feelings. And obviously, y'all know me, so you know how are you feeling? What are your feelings? Like, who's going to walk up to somebody and say that? Like, what? I use humor to neutralize a lot of things because a lot of the stuff that I talk about is hard. But anyway, I actually don't know how to turn on slow mode. Hold on, let me see if I can turn on slow mode.
Bro?
Apparently, y'all are. Okay.
It's fucking
I
torture.
don't know how to turn on slow mode. Oh my God.
It's fucking torture, bro.
Y'all.
Fucking torture. Let's turn on fast mode.
Oh. Hey, thanks, Sharon. Is 10 seconds good? Or 5 seconds? That will be... Hold on, we're gonna do... Whatever. Anyway, face being like, this is how all girls act.
Oh my God, why did you do this? Making sure we're as non-concise as possible here, am I right?
This is how they all are. They just want to talk to us about our feelings.
Okay.
Not accurate. Like, I think when women describe the male experience, I'm like, what?
Oh my God, you think you know, but
You know what it makes me think of? It's like when dudes talk about ladies on a lot of these podcasts, they'd be like, these fucking whores on Instagram just DMing thousands of men, fucking spreading EOY for everything. Like, they always go to this caricature that's just so
Yeah,
extreme.
sure.
And then these ladies do the same thing, which is like, these guys are emotionally stunted and unable to speak about their feelings ever, and they just want to be controlled and dominate. And meanwhile,
Yeah, I mean, I think that generally speaking, that can be a problem, but I understand what they're saying. Like, I personally didn't really grow up with that. Ooh, look at that. I personally didn't grow up with, like, that particular experience. I haven't mentioned in their video.
I'm just playing fucking Smash Bros with my niggas, just having a good time.
True.
Okay, I know the word domination sounds scary. It does sound like a lot. Synonym for domination is control. And control is something that most of us try to have access to in our lives. It's not a male-female
So then what?
Female thing, guy.
So then why did you assign that to men? Okay.
Girl, non-binary, degenerate, whatever. It's just a lot of us want to feel in control of the things happening in our lives.
Okay.
And sometimes that spills onto people, trying to control people and things. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're that kind of person.
Well, yeah, but you made it, you gendered it and said that it's a male thing, and now you're saying it's an everybody thing. So that's a walk back, no?
But just because you aren't doesn't mean it's not possible that there are other men that are like that. 1, 2, why are there entire fields of study? Why are there whole scholars that dedicate their lives to understanding the relationship of how men impact women? Most of them, the central part of their thesis is a lot of time is about control.
Okay.
What is colonization if not control? Imperialism.
You're getting too woke here, and you're losing us. Abba was just making a point about how, like, you don't understand the male experience because you're not a man, and that you have, like, a caricaturized version of what men are, and that you don't understand truly. And he also did the same thing about, like, manosphere men who do the same, like, obnoxious shit. You know?
Control and power in little and big ways. What was my third point? There was a third point. Ooh.
Okay.
Third point. Men often
Men are ugly.
When women are talking about, and this is the irony is that they're also doing a caricature, but when they're talking about women having,
I guess so, but they're doing a caricature of, like, us. They're not doing. You're doing so you're doing like a caricature of all men, whereas they're just doing a caricature of, like, toxic, or what they would see as, like, a toxic woman who tries to woman-splain what a man is. You know what I mean? That's kind of what it is.
feelings, are just wanting to talk at them about their feelings, which I'm not disagreeing with, because I've been that girl. Oof. They don't tend to think about the fact that a lot of times when we're talking about men, we're talking about how we experience men. So even if you
could have just led with this, and this could have been a decent point. You could have been like, oh, fair point. I'm just talking about the way I've experienced men and not necessarily, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, now we can work with you. Your first points were like weird.
Don't feel yourself. Like, I'm not somebody, I would never describe myself as controlling. Who on earth is going to describe themselves as controlling?
Me.
Who gonna say that? I know that I can be controlling. It's something I'm working on, and I would never have described myself as that. I would have used every other word around it. But
me.
Y'all will completely disregard the fact that a lot of times we're talking about how we experience men.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, if I'm the fact that I said, oh, how are you feeling? And it was a joke in the video and they both made that face. If I'm in a relationship with a man the amount of relationships I've been with men, and something is obviously, there's a disconnect, something's not right, and maybe they don't have the language to articulate it, and it's not maybe even as deep as I think it is.
Maybe it's because you're not really that attracted to men. Like, I'm not even memeing. Maybe the reason that you haven't had good relationships with men or good communication skills with men is because you're not attracted to men very much, and you're much more attracted to women, and so you're just not meant to be with a man. And so you are trying to project, or you're trying to assert that like it must be an inherent man issue that makes your relationships difficult with men, when it's just the fact that like you're gay or something, like you're just queer or whatever you labeled yourself. I think you labeled yourself as queer. Because that makes more sense to me. Okay. Oh, that makes sense. Right? Does that not make sense?
But they don't know how to articulate it. So instead of saying anything to me, they go silent. But I'm supposed to figure out that they just want to be left alone, or that they need this or that. Like, a lot of y'all like to assume that because women have been socialized as caregivers or able to be more emotionally intelligent, LOL. They do make jokes about it towards the end, and there's some stuff that I agree with.
Why do you think everything is socialization and you don't have like a concept of that? Like, some of these are probably biological. I think women are probably just better at being more empathetic. Part of it's definitely socialized, but like how much of it is just biological? We are different. Like, I think women tend to be like, that's why we need to value femininity, because there could be some really positive things out of being more empathetic. You know, for me, learning how to empathize with people, which I see as like a general, like more of a feminine trait, has been like profoundly positive for me in my experience, because I'm somebody who can be an angry person. And some of my anger can come from me thinking people, when they do something that may hurt me, it's because they wanted to hurt me. But like having some empathy and trying to understand where they're coming from has led me to be less of an angry person. You know, I've been really trying to like get on like the idea of like, you know, if you're not doing something, if I can be empathetic and realize you're not trying to hurt me, even if you like accidentally do, we could be in a good spot. You know what I mean? I could be like, okay, this wasn't personal. I need to not personalize it. I have to control myself. Like, I have to regulate my emotions. It's very simple shit.
That means that we can just, I don't know what, I'm actually just confused. I'm actually confused.
Check this out.
I'm actually confused.
Pokemon based.
Just because your experience, how you experience yourself, is not someone that is controlling or dominant. You're just playing Nintendo or whatever with your niggas. You just hang out with your niggas. You do whatever.
You guys can't say that word.
Just because that is how you are. And that's fair. You shouldn't, I don't know. It's fair, but if you're in a relationship with somebody, the idea that you wouldn't even humor that them trying to express their feelings to you or ask you about theirs is in bad faith, or like there's a real like sort of hostility that guys get when you ask them about their feelings, and maybe it comes from the fact that many women assume what's in a guy's head.
How do you ask? Wait.
That guys get when you ask them about their feelings, and maybe it comes from the fact that many women assume what's in a guy's head, and they're frustrated by that, which is fair.
What are you? You're being very weird. Are you? Because listen, in my experience, sometimes my wife will be like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Like, I might be quiet, I might be in my head, I might be thinking about work, and she's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." So, are you angry right now? Like, no. And then like I get kind of angry because it's like, holy fuck. So maybe some of the defensiveness just comes from the way that you express a question, and there's part of a tone. If you're like, like sometimes my wife will be like, "Hey, what's going on in your head right now?" That is fair. I'm like, oh, I'm just thinking about work. It gives me the opportunity to open up. And I could be more clear, but I give the opportunity to be like, yeah, no, I'm just thinking about work, or I'm thinking about like this or that. Okay. And then she'll like give me my alone time. But when she goes like, why are you angry? Why are you mad? What's going on? That I get frustrated and defensive, because I'm like, stop, because you need to chill the fuck out. Maybe I'm not saying all the problem. Maybe part of the problem is the way that you are engaging with men's feelings, because you're a woman and you don't understand men in some capacity. And maybe like men have the same issue with women, right? So.
But why do so many people assume what's in your head? Could it perhaps, there are two possibilities. One, that you told them how you feel and they didn't believe you, and that is annoying.
Okay.
Or two, you said nothing, thought you said something, or didn't really think it mattered, and we're leaving it up to this other person to interpret what was in your mind.
So there's a police alarm in the background.
Y'all, especially when it comes to relationships. If you are building a relationship with somebody that is not your friend, that you do not know from Adam, it does not make sense to think that you can come into that union, that whatever it is that you want to build a whole life with that person, with this type of energy. With the energy. And I'm sure if they have partners, I don't know if they do, but if they do, I'm sure they don't have this type of energy with their partners.
Okay.
Because the like defensiveness and the hostility of like the idea that a man could even have feelings, that a man could even ever be controlling.
What? That's not what they're expressing. I'm not getting that out of that. You're the one that seems very defensive and hostile.
That a man could even ever want to be dominating. What? Control doesn't look all the time.
I think what they're saying is it's not that deep. And I was even making like kind of a joke about that before. So when we get into these like really super intellectual conversations about these topics, sometimes it comes off as like it's not that deep. We're talking about like toxic masculinity and like, yeah, men need to do this and this. And I was like, you know what? How it's easier to communicate with people by just being like, yo, just open up a little more sometimes. Like it doesn't have to be this whole deep, like introspective conversation. Sometimes it just has to be like a little push in the right direction, you know?
I'm like, you're controlling my banking finances and blah, 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 blah.
What the fuck? Was she calling them Jewish? I'm just kidding.
And a lot of us aren't necessarily even talking about individual men in our lives.
You know what's interesting? Like, and maybe this is like an overread. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it seems like she struggles with. Listen, I'm not trying to be rude. It seems like she struggles a little bit with like maybe like a more of like a male tone, like a male, because they're just speaking bluntly and clearly. They're not being disparaging of her. They even mentioned like that she had some good points, and you could go watch the video, but they're critiquing the points they disagreed with. And she's taking it very personally, and I just don't understand why. Like it seems like she's a little too sensitive to criticism here, and maybe that's like I find that like I mean it seems a little bizarre, like you know, like it's okay. They're not like shitting on you or your person. They're giving you you don't even have to agree, but so far from the start it's been kind of a cope. Like it's been you that's like no, I didn't do that. No, everything's a joke, kind of a thing.
We're talking about the thing around us.
Yeah,
that causes us to live in a world where a certain portion of the population, and we haven't even brought race and class into this because a lot of y'all are talking like a lot of us are operating like white feminists from the 70s, and I'm just really confused by that. But
check it out, it's 2022, so those white feminists from the 70s are probably dead. All right.
It just is. Sorry, I like lost my train of thought because I'm honestly just baffled. There's a lot.
My question is why does she have this what are these things called? Why do I used to have radiator, but this looks like a heat lamp over here. What's going on in your apartment, girl? Huh? Something's not up. Something's up here. Something's up here.
I got distracted by the chat, y'all.
All right, we'll stop looking up chat.
The chat. But yeah, if they're both married, partnered, whatever, I doubt that they're in relationships where they can't. Oh, patriarchy. That's what I was talking about. But I doubt that they're in relationships where they're not at any point. It would baffle me if they at no point have ever talked about feelings with their partners or just like had honest conversations about, I don't know. It's I don't know. Y'all, clearly I'm getting tired because this is.
Me too. Tell you. Bro, she's making their video lower and lower every day. Right? Every day it's getting lower and lower. Or excuse me, every moment it's getting lower and lower. We're at 106.47.
Experience, which I'm not disagreeing with.
To feel very fucking lonely. You know what's always funny? Those women who are like, I could do bad on myself, I could do bad on myself, that they find a man, but they like the way
maybe it's not.
Male spaces, we think like we're all just like Trump, just fucking. So I grabbed her by the pussy, right? It's like,
Joe.
You just have no idea what male space is.
Face Trump, am I right?
The more I hear women talk about it, the more I recognize it. Yeah,
and clearly we know that men have no idea what these spaces are, because if if y'all think that we're going to be like, men are just like, oh, I'm trying to dominate you. Girl, one who said that too, one of books that I've read, I try to read people that have a lot of sources.
Okay, cool.
And cite those sources in the.
Just because somebody has a source doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that they can't have like a narrative behind a source. It's something that people should really try to like grab hold onto, or grab a hold of, is the concept of using a fact in an incorrect way to be very dishonest about it. This is something that we could do all the time, right? So I could, and I'm gonna bring it to race because we're all four of us are black. So, but if somebody could take the fact that like black people cause more crime disproportionately, it's a fact. I cited my source. What I decided to do with that source is where we get a little bit suspicious. If I use that information to say that black people are inherently violent and inferior people and we should kick them out of the country, you think that I'm being accurate about that, or you think I'm using a fact to be misinformative? Or we could have a complex conversation about systemic racism, right? It's not just about facts. It's how you utilize those facts.
Books. So those folks, if they're going to tell me.
And I'll be truly honest with you, if you look at somebody and you just go like, well, they have sources, so I'm going to believe them blindly, then like you're probably not engaging correctly with the source, that the material that you're looking at.
That control and domination, in the overarching sense of the word patriarchy, is a really is a major theme. I'm going to trust them, and then I'm going to look around at the world that I live in and understand that it is true.
Okay. Well, that would be you using your anecdotal evidence. But again, all they're saying is that like your idea of what men are is not accurate to what men actually are. That's their whole point. I think I tend to agree.
And we didn't make this up. Y'all did. Men did this. We didn't do this. What? Men did this. What are you talking about? Men did this and then decided this and then used it to police other men. Understand that it is true. And we didn't make this up. Y'all did. Men did this.
Yeah, this is a problem. I hate when people do this. I've been very aggressive about it. You need to stop saying that men created a thing, and by extension, if you are a man, you are part of what created the thing, because it's just not true. It's just such a bad talking point. You have to stop doing that. All it does is all you're doing is you're trying to blame men for every wrong thing in the entire world when we were born into the same system you are. That's it. Maybe men benefit from the patriarchy, which is changing every day, but that doesn't mean that you get to say men created this, you did this. She didn't just say men did this, you did this, you, it's your fault. You're not doing anything positive with this stuff other than like riling up frustrations in people. You're not having a positive impact with like this type of bullshit fucking rhetoric. It's not helpful. It's annoying, right? Because again, there are men that say, oh, men created all the buildings and the roads and the rivers and the structures and this, that, the other thing. So that means that's why I'm better than you as a man, even if that individual man has no fucking personal accolades. And that's also stupid because they're just basically using stolen valor from other people who have actually built stuff. Both of these are dumb. You know, these are dumb concepts. It's not productive to say men because this is what people do all the time. They're like, a man will be like, "Hey, I'm having an issue." Oh, well, men created the patriarchy, so that male issue is basically your own fault. You created that problem. It's like, well, I didn't.
We didn't do this. What? Men did this. What are you talking about? Men did this and then decided this and then used it to police other men.
Oh.
And a lot of y'all think you're so free and so open and have so much more because you're a dude living in society, and the worst thing you have to deal with is women complaining about men on the internet. If you only knew, but it's not that deep.
Probably isn't. Probably isn't.
There's a certain, I don't know. There are a lot of people that are using their wealth to control the things that you're doing that you don't even think is control.
Probably. So then, why don't you focus on that class issue instead of focusing on a gender issue? Because you're contributing to like the gender conversation in the wrong way.
I don't know.
That part's true. Guys, we have to finish the video. I'm sorry, but we started it. We got to see it through, my boy.
Oh, okay. You don't know shit about fuck. It's fine.
It's also statistically, if we're gonna pull up all the stats,
cool.
This is at least in Canada. This might not be in other. It's actually in other places. The only category, if I'm remembering the research correctly, y'all can fact check this for sure, but the only category that men are underrepresented when it comes to being victims of violent crime is in sexual assault categories. And I think that's partially because of what are those things? Self-reporting. But why are men, if you don't want to answer any of those questions, answer these.
What?
If elements of power, violence, and control are not at all a thing for dudes, or they're not a thing for most dudes or whatever.
I don't think that's what they're trying to say. I guess I don't know. We've only gotten through 5 seconds of their video in half an hour, so.
Why are men overrepresented as victims of violent crimes and more likely to be victims of violent crimes by other men that are strangers? Why are men killing themselves at higher rates?
I mean, I would argue because like a lack of societal support for men. I'm sorry because I'm struggling to understand how this like correlates to what she was originally saying. She's talking about domination. They were just like, I don't think it's like that deep, and then she's going off onto this tangent. I'm having trouble. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm burnt out. I'm having trouble understanding her point at this point. It just sounds like a lot of information, because men tend to be more aggressive. But the problem is that you, in your original video, you said that men were engaged in a way that's always about control and dominance. And then in this video here, when you get critiqued, you're talking about everybody engages that way. And now you're going back to men. You're all over the place.
And this isn't even stuff that I wanted to be true. I went looking for this information to debunk someone so I could show that women have it harder when I was in my hate men feminism phase.
Okay.
And when I found this
still
stuff,
in
I
that
was
phase.
like, wow, what the fuck is going on with men? But it's not that deep.
I think she thinks she's making a really good point. It's crazy.
How many rappers have died this year already? But it's not that.
A lot of them, because I've been eating a lot of candy. I actually have not been eating a lot of candy. Just wanted to make that clear because I'm fat, so I don't get to make that joke. Because you guys will bully me for being fat, dude. It's so fucking upsetting to me.
That deep.
Ooh,
I get upset about this stuff because I fucking care.
Wow. Well, thank you for letting me know that you care.
And I get really irritated when people who...
On behalf of all men, thank you so much.
act like they care,
okay,
but really just care about engagement and numbers and making money and all this bullshit, try to come to the corner of the internet that I have worked hard to cultivate a space for and bring fuckery.
Bro, they're just content creators that got big off of making this type of content in like a genuine way. I mean, like, what are you talking about? You're trying to make it seem like they're just grifting for fucking views. Abba, like, obnoxiously almost and religiously sits in fucking Destiny's chat having conversations with people with absolutely no benefit to himself. How, like, trying to learn and hear other people's perspectives and getting a little debate, bro-y. How are you going to say that he does everything for, like, content? He's chilling. He's talking to people. Like, you can go look at, like, Brittany Simon he's chatted with, other women that I don't care about because I hate women. Like he's doing this. I don't think that you could say that he's just grifting for views. See, look, it's the main video. I watched it. It was a good conversation, you know. So what are you talking about, girl?
It's not.
Like, everybody, you're making content for money too. We all make content for money, but like, where is that money priority? Is it the top where you're just looking for as much money as possible, or is it like just in there? You know what I mean? I would argue for Abba, Preach, her, and even myself, like, money is a factor. And obviously we need money to live, but I enjoy the content I make. I try to be as honest as possible. That's number one. So you're bad faithing them. Debate terms. Gatorade.
I've been trying to be very polite throughout this video, but this is where I get really irritated.
Why? I don't even remember what they said because they haven't even been talking. Ooh, SpongeBob.
But again, it's not that deep. For y'all, maybe it isn't, but for me, it is. Because I have brothers that I do care about.
Okay, so you have men in your life that you care about, so it makes you like better than them. I'm sure that they have men in their life that they care about too. Assuming that they don't seems kind of sexist, girl. It seems like you're promoting the idea that men can't have other relationship with men without it being gay. So you're the hater.
A father that I care about. I care about men.
I don't. Fuck that piece of shit. My dad's a scumbag. I hope he fucking dies. Sorry. I don't hope that. I would never waste my karma points on that. Because I'd rather use them on something cooler. Like a cool hat.
And if you had watched my video,
or the birth of a new baby, or a baby. That'd be cool if I had a baby soon. That'd be pretty based.
You've known that. And if you cared about men the way you say you do, and men and women coming together, you would have not only watched it, but you would have actually talked about the other points that I made in the video instead of making a passing comment at the beginning.
Okay.
We apparently live in the same city. Okay. You could have even messaged me.
Wait, that expectation is stupid.
Oh, yeah, but you said criticizing my video. You could have messaged me.
Shut up. I hate that. You got nay-nayed. You're doing a terrible job of defending yourself. You're not taking any accountability. Why don't you message him and ask him if he wants to talk in person?
But it's not that deep to y'all.
Whoa.
You know, the second
I gotta turn them up so I can hear what they're saying.
Like, you can leave now. So, what are you feeling on me?
I don't know what kind of dynamic that is.
This is so just training.
Me neither, because I can't hear them because you're fucking crazy.
So,
No, don't say that. What you thinking?
oh my god.
What? I don't even know really too much about the point that they're making. Maybe I'm just burnt out. What are you thinking? That's not bad for them to ask. That's a fun question.
Clearly that triggered y'all. How did that hit y'all? Comment. Who is the y'all that y'all are talking about? You expect that your audience is a bunch of dudes that are going to, yes, I know dudes need community, but misery loves company.
Okay.
And you're expecting a bunch of dudes to commiserate over, oh, the amount of women that ask me about my feelings. How dare she want to get to know me? How dare she want to talk to me about what's going on inside? And
You might have a good point here, but we're so like it's just it's such a burnout on this video that like it's, you know, it's like not a bad point. Like it seems, because I can't really hear the video too well, but it seems like they're kind of just joking on like girls trying to ask men about their feelings. And it's like, okay, you could probably make a good point of like, oh, hey, see, here's an example of them, like I think downplaying like what I'm saying, but you're just like all the other points are so exhausting.
And I get
that it's hard to like feel any like, oh, okay, like any understanding towards you.
Because we like to condition men to say that shit doesn't matter. And then we put them in relationships with women that have been taught that shit's the only thing that matters, and we expect them to get along.
Well,
that doesn't make sense.
I have to finish the
So
video.
I understand that
Sorry,
why
brother.
men have such a visceral response to hearing feelings talk and all that stuff.
no.
I get it. But again, it's a much bigger picture, and we really need to zoom out. God, fucking leftists, zoom out.
What is this like weird like performative leftist take? I don't know. Oh, the leftists, they're terrible. By the way, I'm anti-capitalist. I want to destroy the patriarchy. You're pretty leftist on your perspective here. You're going to criticize other leftists. I don't understand.
I fucking hit you, right? I hit you with that shit. I hit you with that shit, right? I hit you with that
You just said PTSD, clearly.
The rise that we see of this manosphere incels, all this sort of stuff, retaliating against this independence, you know, because you see the pendulums. That's an extreme reaction. But what can we learn from that? And what I think we can learn from that is that, c'est moi.
Bro, she's killing me with the ads. You're just fucking kidding me right now? Bro, come on. Oh my god, this is so insane.
And I was like, yes.
It's a lot deeper than just thinking men are trash, in my opinion. Speaking a frustration into the world about how difficult it is to not only connect with men, understand men, vibe with men, but even tolerate them at times. Like, that's wild to think about. You have us doing all manner of emotional labor.
I say that's wild to think about. But then after that, I say it's wild to think about that there is a whole section of the population that we are looking at and saying we can't tolerate you. Something's not right here.
Do you ever think that maybe you're the problem? Like, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but like, okay, there's a problem with men expressing themselves. Do you think that like the way you're engaging with this is also a problem? Because you're villainizing all these men because like we were taught to basically do all these things for you and this and the other thing. And it's like, what are you talking about, man? Like, this is just not like a positive way to operate. You're saying that there's an inherent problem with like all men. That's the same shit that fucking manosphere people say. Like, about women.
Started realizing we could do, bad all by ourselves. And really we're committed to that and saw the fruits of our labor and all of that stuff, no matter how capitalist pink-washed it was, in my opinion, brought about this even bigger chasm because not only were men then already kind of in that camp of not really being emotionally intelligent or being required to be sex economics, the man works and women hold power as sex and give it to men depending on how much money like that weird messed up
like I agree with the messed up dynamic part, but
mentality of all men have to offer is what's on the outside, the physical.
You know what kills me? Women always talk about how emotionally intelligent they are. And I think they think that just because they talk about their emotions, they're more emotionally intelligent.
so this would be a great point to just be like, hey, I don't think that you should make this general prescription about all women because I've never heard a woman talk about how emotionally intelligent they are. I don't think that that's like a common thing. Some women, like this woman here, talks about her emotional intelligence in a way that's disparaging of men. I agree. But here's a great point to disagree with on. Like, yeah, I don't think it's fair to be like all women say that they're more emotionally intelligent. It's a good point that he's making that not like everybody who says they're emotionally intelligent actually is. They may just be like generally emotionally emotional and may not even necessarily have a hold of their emotions and just think that that's emotional intelligence. But like I would be like, yeah, it seems like you're kind of just you're monolithing everybody. You could just say that.
But my experience has generally been that women barely can see their own behavior or their own shortcomings emotionally, which is why we get therapy.
And which is one of the reasons why we don't talk about it.
I would say that both men and women have that same problem. See, like I don't like this part from them. Like both men and women have this issue of like expressing their emotions correctly.
Because the way sometimes you guys react is messed up. You know, sometimes we don't talk about shit because your reaction is gonna be fucked up. You
Maybe,
assume
sure.
a lot of shit because you assume that you're emotionally more stable and intelligent. So if I come up with some shit, the backlash is gonna be real.
Preach. If you had only watched my For the Boys video. If only.
How many videos do they have to watch for them to understand who you are? How many tens of hours of content you have to watch me videos, read these books, watch all this? Don't you think that maybe you failed as a content creator to qualify the things that you're saying if they misinterpret it? Maybe you just didn't bring up the correct context. I think that you're just deflecting, but like, oh, if you only watched my entire other video, holy fuck. Holy shit. If only you went back and took the entire 8th grade history exam again. Kanye, if only you went back to 8th grade history. If only you went back and took 260 days of school or whatever it is. You'd understand. Which we might need to do for Kanye. You have a very high expectation of the amount of information people need to look at before engaging in your content. Like what maybe you should change your channel from your name to like a fucking like 105 class or 201 class or something, because apparently we can't engage in any of this content until we've watched 500 other videos, which just seems silly to me. All right, we're not TV shows. This isn't a TV show. This is like it's a generally independent video.
If only.
Zed King super chatted $5 for your suffering.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that very much.
They're literally responding to me about how it feels when women do this to them. How does that make you feel? It feels shitty. You're telling someone something and they're not listening.
I know, but the idea is that how can men open up? What they're saying is, how can men open up to women if women, when we open up, they don't acknowledge our feelings correctly? So like that's what they're saying, and you're like, see, yeah, okay.
Listening to you. So one might say you're having an emotional reaction, a feeling. I really need y'all to neutralize emotions. And you know what? A great book that will help you do that.
Neutralize your emotions, guys. Every father in the 1950s. What are you saying at this point?
Is Permission to Feel by Dr. Mark Brackett. He is the Yale Center, the director for the Yale Center of Emotional Intelligence.
Gay. Cringe.
Great book. Teaches you about something called the ruler method.
Yeah.
Teaches you about display.
I know the ruler method. When I was younger, I would draw a line on the ruler where my pee-pee was. So that's the ruler method for me. And then I'd cry.
The rules and how and who is allowed to share their emotions, and he's the director of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. So
that's crazy, dude.
I think he's been doing this work for a while.
Sounds like all the people that you're referencing are men when it comes to emotional intelligence, and men seem to be the most emotionally intelligent. Am I right, guys? Am I right, fellas? Men seem to be the most emotionally intelligent. Boom, high five. We got her. Men are the fucking best, baby. My fucking stomach, like my shirt and the floor look similar, so it looks like I'm like a big Jabba the Hutt, but I'm not. I'm just a Jabba. Weird.
Someone else, Brene Brown. She talks about feelings,
around.
but she has been a researcher for
Boo,
decades.
she's a woman. Boo.
She talks about feelings being ashy. She's not some, oh, this is really wooey. She's just like, this is the data, and I go with the data. So
yeah, me too. I actually went with my mama because my dad wasn't very good. He wasn't really there.
Really, y'all need to depersonalize emotions and stop associating them with only women and anything to do with women being bad, because you're having an emotional response to this right now. Like when Preach says, and then I don't want to say anything. I literally say in multiple videos, women have to be able.
Bro, who cares? You didn't say in that one. All they're saying is that you're complaining about how men are emotionally stunted, and then he's just saying, well, you know, I think women, when I've expressed myself to women, they don't really acknowledge my feelings in a way that makes me feel good, so I don't want to do it anymore. And then both of you guys are going back corralling all men and all women into the same category and talking about how they're all stinky poopy heads that all do a thing wrong, and like you're all playing the monolith game. You know what I mean? But you didn't even make that criticism.
To stop for a second and go, if I'm asking a man to talk about his feelings, I can't be upset when he finally does.
Okay.
Or it's not that I can't be upset, But I have to hold space for that when he finally does, because I'm asking for him to show his emotions. And I'm not obviously talking about asking for violence and stuff like that. I'm just saying, I have been in relationships. Hooks talks about these examples too, where you get upset with a dude and you're like, just talk to me. And they start talking to you and you cry and you make it about yourself.
Don't talk to me, I'll murder you. That's funny. That's very funny.
And you don't know how to regulate your emotions, because that's also part of emotional intelligence.
You know what's interesting? I actually watched this next part that she says, and it's actually really smart. You ready?
It's not just being able to...
Hold on. What? Wait, we're almost there. Here you go. Speaking facts now, baby. Okay. I gotta rewind her a little bit.
Violence and stuff like that.
Real news, Checkers is opening again. I'm gonna open up my asshole and dump all those burgers into it.
When he finally does, because I was asking for him to show his emotions.
And
I'm not obviously talking about asking for violence and stuff like that. I'm just saying.
Do it. Be violent.
I have been in relationships.
Don't
talks about these examples too, where you get upset with a dude and you're like, just talk to me. And they start talking to you and you cry and you make it about yourself. And you don't know how to regulate your emotions, because that's also part of emotional intelligence. It's not that you have feelings, recognizing them, and then being able to articulate them and then communicate them. It's also about being able to regulate them.
Okay, cool.
And a lot of us, all of us, so many of us have difficulty with that. And I have been that partner, not just to men, in queer relationships. I have been that partner. So this isn't even just a man-woman thing. I have been that partner where I have not been able to regulate my emotions, and it's caused horrible repercussions for the relationship.
I had a pretty queer relationship once. Kissed my cousin on the lips. A little weird. I think that's what she's talking about. But we never did anything outside of like butt stuff, you know? So it was all good.
So I'm not disagreeing with him or with either of them about that, because that is very true. If we want to hear men talk about their feelings, we have to let them know it's okay by showing them it's okay, and not making it about us or making it, oh, well, blah, blah, when... I
agree, women are the problem.
Because that's not really fair. Because if I'm going to start sharing my feelings with you, and every time I do, you overreact and you do whatever, then I stop and I go, I don't feel safe to tell you things anymore. And the ideal of a man even saying, I don't feel safe to tell you things, a man would be like, why would I ever say that? I don't feel safe. Because it's vulnerable. And men can't be vulnerable. I was talking with my friend about this before this, because I was just like, he's someone that I chat with a lot. And he was like, you know,
we're going for
the
the
way
Death
I would
Star
describe
trench
being
run,
a
dude.
man is that there's not a separation between me and reality. And I was like, what does that mean? And for him, it meant when shit got hard, I'm not going to go into details.
Do a barrel roll.
Because that's not my business to tell. But I liked the way he explained it. When shit gets hard.
Not bad. I got more stuff too.
When there's physical danger afoot, people expect men to put their bodies on the line for women and children.
Got this from Hot Wheels. Look at this.
And that to him was his one of the ways he defined what being a man is, like how he's experienced it to be. Not what it ought to be, but how he's experienced it to be.
$15 for each one of these. Not bad, honestly. It's not that bad.
And y'all might look at me and be all like, oh, God, whenever people talk about abolishing the gender binary, it's stupid. But what do we do with something that's clearly not working? That's clearly causing a chasm between whole groups of a population simply because of how they're gendered. If you want another book, one of the books that I've read, I'm being so shady. If you want another book recommendation, How Can I Get Through to You? And I Don't Want to Talk About It. Both of those books are by Terrence Real, and he's a family psychologist, and he talks about...
if you want like a really good book that you guys could look up, it's called Captain Underpants. This is a really good book. I would highly recommend it. It teaches you about a young kid and his imagination. It helps stimulate your imagination. It's pretty cool.
Patriarchy. And he uses actual excerpts from actual sessions that he's...
Is this how fucking boring I get sometimes when I drone on? Like, fuck.
Had with families. And the book is titled, How Can I Get Through to You? Because even he gets frustrated with his male clients that come in.
That's crazy, dude. Look at this.
Because they can't even see what we see, how we experience men. So I will give you that a lot of times we're doing a lot of assuming of what's in a man's brain, and that's not fair, because we can't do that in anyone's brain. That's not fair.
Yeah.
But then you have to come back
as a Lego,
as this exchange works, and go, okay, let me humor what you're saying. You're not talking necessarily maybe about who or how I am as a person. You're talking about how you experience men. on the day-to-day, every day. And you just want me to listen and maybe believe what you're saying.
And I have one as my wife as well.
I don't know.
We made these at Lego.
But I'm single and I have 2 cats. What do I know about communication? I just have really rich, meaningful friendships. And
I have an axe and she has a...
I'm kidding. Oh my God.
A cute little phone.
Now we're going to get the full auntie mode. Okay.
Beep, beep, bop, boop.
You think I want to deal with backlash as a man? I shut the fuck up. It's easier for me.
We're back onto the video.
And what does that do to you?
Sorry.
When you're constantly...
Should I bother?
Now we're going to get the full auntie mode. Okay.
You think I want to deal with a backlash as a man? I shut the fuck up. It's easier for me. Women sometimes talk to us.
And what does that do to you? When you're constantly shutting the fuck up because it's easier for you, what does that do to you?
It's weird that you're putting the blame on him, even though in this scenario, I think that there could be equally amount of blame shared between men and women in this scenario where it's like, oh, a woman asks me to open up, I open up, and she gives me she doesn't really acknowledge my feelings well. It's like, well, it's your fault that why I don't understand why it's his fault in this scenario that he's proposed. I don't know.
Y'all are talking about introspection and self-reflection. Where is it? What does that do to you?
Yes,
it's okay to admit that it's shitty. I've been talking about my feelings this whole thing. I'm leading with it and being honest about how I'm feeling about this. Because to me, what's the harm?
You guys know who Not Clay is?
Y'all are going to try to use it against me? Okay.
What's up, bro?
I told y'all about that damn love ethic bullshit, and I fucking mean it, even if I'm irritated. I love y'all. You're better than this.
They think they're being so profound, but they're just talking into the air and saying a lot of nothing.
I use they, them, or she, her. It's fine, y'all. It's okay.
You realize that you're physically... They're like, what? It's like, you got all this time to dissect every single thought I have, but you don't even notice that you be hitting people all the time when you get frustrated.
Ooh! I'm not going to disagree.
Outward time to be like, this. Did you know that half of all physical altercations when it comes to marital and relationship-related stuff is initiated by women? But if you...
Is that true? Okay.
Frustrated?
Ooh! I'm not going to disagree.
Outward time to be like, this. Did you know that half of all physical altercations when it comes to marital and relationship-related stuff is initiated by women? But if you...
I don't know if that's true. I feel like it's not true, but I'm gonna look into it. Where is that from? I feel like that just can't be true. Where is that? I just want to look it up. What's his source?
Frustrated?
Ooh! I'm not going to disagree.
Outward time to be like, this. Did you know that half of all physical altercations when it comes to marital and relationship-related stuff is initiated by women? But if you...
I just need a citation for that.
Most women I know, and this is just, of course, completely anecdotal.
Now it's anecdotal?
Where is this from? That's a really big. Oh, listen, if that claim, I don't think that claim is true. That's a really intense claim. It might be true, but like, I need like a study. You can't say something like that and just be like, yeah, this is a thing. Where did he hear that from? That's too much.
Stuff is initiated by women, but if you all physical altercations when it comes to marital and relationship-related stuff is initiated by women.
Where is he getting that from? The census has it on DV, so does Pew Research Center. What Abba is saying is true. Some studies do say that, but they're self-reports. Okay, can you direct me towards this Pew Research thing so I can like look at it?
I just need a citation for that.
Most women I know, and this is just, of course, completely anecdotal.
Now it's anecdotal?
But it doesn't mean that they have a deep understanding of them. It doesn't mean that they're emotionally mature enough to really understand the gravitas, everything. Now, I will credit women that they're much more open about these things. But being open is not enough. There's a lot of introspection that has to happen beyond that. And when I hear ladies talk, they sound like they're the masters of emotion. No, you're the masters of talking about them. Doesn't mean you've mastered them. That's why, if you look at the big pie personality traits, women rate way higher when it comes to neuroticism.
Okay, what?
No, you're the masters of talking about them. Doesn't mean you've mastered them. That's why, if you look at the big pie personality traits, women rate way higher when it comes to neuroticism.
What is neuroticism? trait disposition to experience negative effects, including anger and anxiety. Okay. There's a lot of information going on here.
Okay. 1, citation needed. That was a funny freeze. 1, citation needed. 2, if you're going to throw a stat like that out, even if you don't have a citation, and you're not going to talk about the context around that, then what's going on? Because what's the etymology of the word to be neurotic, to have neuroses? Also, what statistically is the portion of women going to therapists versus men? And then how does that impact more women being labeled neurotic than men?
That's a fair point. Okay.
These are that's only 3 things that I even just, that's 3, maybe 2. These are the questions you have to ask around stuff. You can't, that you're just saying. I can't say you can't say something. That's not fair. I can't control anyone. And I'm not going to disagree that a lot of people in general say that they know about feelings, but they don't. Because a lot of us are not taught to learn and know about our feelings. I don't know what kind of women they have dated, but I grew up in a West African household. You figure it out. Why are you crying? What is that going to do for you over here? Oh, you got beat up at school? You better make sure you beat them up next time, or when you come home, you will have me to deal with. Who are y'all missing in this conversation when you're pigeonholing all women into, I don't know, radical Twitter feminists? I don't know what.
Maybe they're leaning a little bit into that at this point. Where I can't find this statistic. I can't. I really want to find this statistic. I really would like to know about this. I can't find 50% of the initiators are women. I want to just like look at it. I'm not saying it's not true. It sounds untrue, but obviously like I've never heard it before. So, but is there a specific link people can find?
What genre, flavor of feminist y'all are talking about? But let me know when you find them. The divestors, is that? Oh God, heavens to Betsy.
Divester. I'm
like, the amount of us that have grown up in those households and didn't get to be coddled. Me and my sisters weren't coddled. My brothers were. And that's anecdotal, yes. But I don't know. I just feel like this monolith thing, every single woman, y'all are one. Also, let's just keep watching. I can't. Let's just keep.
You guys will display everything. Don't we need to have a good control or handle over them, or a deep understanding of them?
Emotional regulation.
It's really when it's, and you're good at talking about it when it happens to you.
Even when you hear women talk about the exes, I swear on my mother's life, every woman has been in a relationship with a narcissist. Every woman. Even though they're like less than 1% of the population, every woman's ex-boyfriend is a narcissist. They got some kind of mental health disorder. Every single one of them. And they're not even being hyper. They're serious.
I've never experienced this issue. I don't know what they're talking about, but it's funny. Like, oh, he had such a big problem. I mean, I guess you'd say the same thing about men. Like, men are like, oh, that bitch was crazy, right? So men and women are both hyperbolic. You'd say, oh, you know, all of them were psychopaths, narcissists, and all men would be like, oh, they're all crazy, fucking, you know, insane bullshit, you know.
She dated 3 narcissists. Do you understand? That the common denominator. No. Do you understand the odds of that possibility? Yo, that's fucked up. Like, they sign up for the lottery because you gonna win apparently.
The odds are actually theoretically a little high if she has a type. You know what I mean? She might have a type for fucking crazy guys, so maybe she actually did date multiple diagnosed narcissists. You know, like I tend to date fucking crazy women all the time. I don't know. I guess I have a fucking fetish for them or something. You know, you can't be attracted. Like, everybody has a type, bro. A lot of the women I've been with have daddy issues. Me too. You know. Yeah.
Those odds, yeah, absolutely. You did 3 narcissists in a row?
The way okay. The only reason I'm laughing is because the look on his face. You dated 3 narcissists in a row. I don't know why that's so funny to me. Yeah, bro, that's being on the internet. Fucking everybody thinks they're dating a narcissist. Everybody thinks their parents are narcissists. Everybody thinks everybody's a narcissist. Okay, that's the nature of having anybody that says that they're a practitioner pretending that I don't know. Y'all. Okay. And this is obviously, y'all are saying you a lot, so you're talking about past experience very specifically, clearly. I will also say, yes, again, a lot of people do not know how to regulate their emotions. A lot of people have never even heard the words emotional regulation. What?
I've never even heard her say this before.
Are you kidding me? So to say women always do this, just because it looks outward in the way that women do it doesn't mean that men don't do it either. Because the way men are expected to be allowed to emotionally lash out is anger or indifference. And those are still emotions. Indifference.
I'm looking up the study you asked me to look up, but I'm not seeing where this thing says that like men engage in this more. Or women start it. I'm just looking for it. Okay. I'll keep looking. If you want to take a look, maybe you can tell me at what point it is. I'll put it in the chat.
It's still an emotion. Still feeling. Or a feeling tied to an emotion, I should say. But on the spectrum of anger and indifference, I'm really like, I asked my brother about this. I'm like sitting here thinking like, what emotions do I see? Yes, men can be joyful and laugh. No one's saying y'all don't laugh. Damn, what? I love cracking yucks with the boys. No one's saying y'all don't laugh. But if we're really going to talk about emotions and feelings and how some people don't know how to regulate them, they don't know how to articulate them, all of that stuff, it just comes across that like, and this is a display rule that Mark Brackett talks about how certain people and certain bodies are allowed or not allowed, but allowed to act a certain way while others aren't. If you see, we're going to use an example, a white woman crying in the subway, even if you don't know the context, it's like, okay, they're crying. Maybe it's just like a petite white woman just crying in the subway. If you saw some like big NFL linebacker dude, same situation, you do a double take. And I'm not saying everybody feels this way. This is a bias that I had for a while that I'm working through because I also had a difficult time watching men have different emotions. I was used to seeing the anger and indifference from them, but anytime it was something other than that, obviously besides joy, I'd be like, why are you crying? Stop! Ah! That wasn't a good look. Short people actually not understanding them. Oh, there it is. Every girl dated a narcissist and every man has a crazy ex-girlfriend. The common denominator is we don't teach people how to be emotionally intelligent. That's one of them, not one common denominator, because we never say that there's one thing that's the answer. But one of the big things is that we do not teach people social emotional learning. How many of you can actually feel your feelings, stop for a second, work through articulating them for yourself, communicating them to another person in a way that allows the other person to feel like it's not putting it on them, they're just hearing you, and then be able to regulate and chill out. It takes fucking practice. And as someone with BPD, it takes a lot of practice. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because I have spent so—
Is bipolar disorder? Isn't like an aspect of bipolar disorder like thinking that when somebody wrongs you, it's like you're either all on or all off, or is that something else? Am I getting that wrong? Because that might explain a little bit of her behavior.
So much of my life doing this, being the girlfriend that these people are talking about. It's not a good look, but it's also not a good look on this other end. Because for them—
It's weird that you say it's unlikely some women hit or smack men they are mad at, and it's socially acceptable somewhat. Maybe. I'm not— all I'm saying is I want to find the fucking study. Like, I can't find it.
It's just, well, it's I don't know, it's just always though, whenever you're pointing a finger, there are three pointing back at you. Anyway, Lord have mercy, y'all. We're almost done.
It's like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I just attract them. Jesus fucking.
Really? Are you sure?
Lady.
Come on, man. Like, they do all this outward projection of, like, mental health stuff and analyzing emotions, and he gaslit me, and there was manipulation involved and all this other stuff, and you ask them, like, when have you engaged that? Never. You've never manipulated a man? No. All I'm trying to say is, I can look at my own past dating behavior and acknowledge there were times I've been manipulative, there were times I've maybe misrepresented facts or whatever it might be, lied, go ahead.
Misrepresented facts.
Like, when it comes to your own behavior, do you see it? And a lot of them be like, whoa. And you ask them, are you a master of emotions? These things, they got a PhD in fucking feelings, bro.
And no, they oftentimes they feel everything and they really think
it's the truth.
That is the truth. I felt it, that's what happens. Yeah, okay.
This feels like the end of this feels like like a therapy session. Like, I'm like, are y'all okay?
But let's see how that happened. I'm not gonna say what you did for that to happen, because that's victim blaming. But let's just dissect how that happened.
Ooh, the condescension. Okay. And then there's a part 2 later this week. Good Lord.
Oh, they have it on Patreon. That's smart.
So we did it. We finished. Oh my God. Hey, Veronica. I have been trying to avoid chat so I don't get sick.
All right, cool. Cool video. I'm really trying to like read into this stuff about like the partner violence. Violence by women causes less harm due to obvious. Okay. Holy fuck. Extensive research.
Women initiate domestic violence more than men. Men underreported. Domestic violence against men is often underreported. Further, multiple studies demonstrate that in intimate partner violence, IPV, women are more often the initiators of physical violence. Expert testimony that provides such crucial information is necessary to overcome the bias against men in domestic violence cases and related restraining order matters, especially where men are claiming self-defense or filing for protective orders against abusive women. Social workers and judges are often skeptical of such claims by men, and it's time we bring science into the courtroom to end such systemic gender-based discrimination against men. 1. Analyzing data gathered from 11,370 respondents, researchers found that half of violent relationships were reciprocally violent. In non-reciprocally violent relationships, women were the perpetrators in more than...
I think I have to read it myself. Researchers found that half of violent relationships were reciprocated violent. Okay, were reciprocal, or whatever. It goes back and forth. In non-reciprocal violence situations, women are the perpetrators in 70% of that cases. Out of the respondents, a quarter of the women admitted to perpetrating the domestic violence. And when the violence was reciprocal, women were often the ones that have been in the first strike. In addition, an analytic view of the... Okay. Does that first strike mean that the other guy might have been aggressing onto them? I don't really know. Also, I don't really want to read this off of a .com. I kind of want to get this from like a solid study. The Guardian. Okay, this doesn't even exist apparently. Okay, these studies don't exist. I'll look at this myself. A lot of this I don't know. This .org might be decent, maybe. Watch what happens when a man abuses. Okay, that doesn't. That's okay. Video. What is this? Oh, this is like a study. Okay. Men might I can't get that. Maybe Huffington Post is decent. Them stack the bench for post by. What the fuck is it that they're linking in here? What the fuck are these links? All right, I gotta find something better. Okay, surprising truth about women and violence. Oh, okay. Time is probably reputable. The arrest of Olympic gold medalists on charges of domestic violence would normally be an occasion for soul-searching conversation about machismo in sports, size masculinity, but not when it's offenders authority on women. Assaulting her. Okay, male violence against women and girls has been a focus on it. Okay. Okay, research showing that women are often aggressors in domestic violence has been causing controversy for almost 40 years, ever since the 1975 National Family Violence Survey. Why none of these links exist anymore? By sociologists, blah, 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 New Hampshire, found that women are just as likely as men to report hitting a spouse, and men found that women were just as likely as men to report hitting a spouse, and men were just as likely as women to report getting hit. The researchers initially assumed that, at least in the case of mutual violence, women were defending themselves or retaliating, but when subsequent surveys asked about who struck first, it turned out that women were likely men to initiate, were as likely. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that those women weren't defending themselves, but the men could be doing the same. 2010 review essay. Oh my God, why are these links all gone? Critics have argued this incident from. All right, I got to look at this offline because I don't really know. I had to look into it extensively. It's an interesting claim, but I want to verify it. I'm not, and obviously I'm not going to change my perspective until I'm able to verify it. But okay, I think that's it for me, guys. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Y'all come back now. Here, I gotta go. Peace out, Boy Scouts.
I want Papa God to pee on
my face, but just as a friend. There's nothing weird about that. True.